Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Watkins Glen for round 3 of Porsche Cup League, here live and exclusive on iRacing UK Twitch channel, brought to you via iRacing, the world's premier motorsport simulator. Who are iRacing UK? We are a community of enthusiastic and inclusive racers from across the UK who like to run social races, practice sessions and leagues, but most importantly, share experiences and our passion for sim racing. I'm Ian Winchester, and tonight I'm joined by Chris Rowlands for another round of heat racing in the Porsche Cup car. 2 weeks ago at Snetterton, we saw carnage on one of the most technically challenging circuits on the calendar. This evening, we race at the comparatively benign Watkins Glen, but that doesn't mean our drivers can take it easy. The format, for those joining us for the first time, is as follows. We start off with a qualifying session. Once the results of that are in, the odd and even car numbers go into heats. Heats are 20 minutes long with up to 30 cars in each. The top 10 cars of each heat go through to the feature race. The remaining drivers from the heats go into a consolation race, which is a second chance to get into the feature race. The top 10 of those will go through to the feature race. The consolation race is 20 minutes with a maximum of 40 cars in the race. After that, the feature race, the main event, 30 minutes with a maximum of 30 cars. And points will be awarded for places in the feature race. And there are additional points available for the drivers for the fastest person in each individual race. And as always, we'll be keeping an eye on Twitch chat throughout the broadcast, so feel free to drop your messages. We love to hear from everyone watching, so post who you're cheering on and who you think will be victorious tonight. Chris, I know you've been following this league for the last 2 events. Who do you think are the guys that are going to be really to watch for, and who do you think is maybe a dark horse that hasn't done so well previously, but we can expect something good at Watkins?
Good evening, first of all, everyone. Hope everyone's good. Yeah, I suspect tonight will be a bit more. The fastest drivers will just be at the front of the grid, because last time out at Snetterton, it was a bit of a lottery because people were just going off left, right, and centre. It's a challenging combination to throw into round 2. Is Snetterton in the Porsche Cup car, and Watkins Glen by comparison a lot nicer. So I reckon we'll see the usual suspects at the front. So we'll have our championship leader, Gavin Halls, I think will be near the front. Apologies if I've got the wrong chap there. Mark Baxter-Jones is back. He missed out on round 2, but he finished, I believe, 2nd. And we had Tim Cox with his lovely singing to celebrate Mark's podium, and he's back this week. So we'll see if he can be up high. You can never really count out James Armstrong either, I would say, but that's not to say these are the only 3 that will be near the top. We've got plenty of other drivers tonight to look out for. 34 at the moment look like they're registered to the session, so we're still going to have 17 car heats to start with. Plenty of opportunities for action throughout the grid, I would say.
That's right, and James Armstrong is a name I recognise from the GT3 leagues. He seems to be a pretty strong driver all round, whatever car you put him in. I mean, is this down to just long iRacing experience, or is he just a general all-round fast racer?
He's one of those annoying guys who's just very good in everything he races in. Although, to sort of give him some credit, a lot of that is because of doing a lot of practice. You can't just be talented and be good in all these cars. You have to work hard as well. I mean, James also absolutely destroyed season 1 of the Radical League, although we've not seen him in season 2 of the Radical League so far. So we've had different drivers dominating. But I won't go on about the Radical League again, although it is great. But so is Porsche Cup.
I've heard, I've not raced the Porsche Cup car myself. I've heard it can be a bit of a tricksy beast. You have to basically know what you're doing. It's like with the P2 car, the LMP2 that I tend to race, and the skips. They're a bit more forgiving, really. I mean, they're not easy, but you can kind of get away with, like, if you're not exactly right going on the power, you can kind of control it, and maybe keep it in the skid. I mean, is that true of these, or do you have to be really on it?
It's sort of the one car that I think you'll find people say, if you can drive this car, you can drive any car. You need to be good at pretty much every aspect of racing, because you need to be good with the sort of the weight balance of the car. You need to be gentle on the throttle. You need to be gentle on the brake. You need to be very aware of your surroundings, because a small amount of contact with another car sends you not flying, but it won't end well, as we saw 2 weeks ago. So I think you tend to find with the Porsche Cup car that the drivers who can drive quickly and carefully tend to do well. We've seen lots of very quick drivers who have unfortunately not been able to keep it on the track for a half hour at sort of 100% of their pace. I'm one of those. There's a reason why I'm in the commentary booth and not out on the track for this. Stick to my high downforce cars with open wheelers and radicals, where
It's
aggressive driving isn't punished quite so much.
it's funny you mentioned high downforce because I was just looking at these massive wings. Does aero play much in these, or is it mostly mechanical grip for the Cup?
There's not really any grip whatsoever, I would say. I'm probably underselling the car a little bit, but
I'm sure that's not strictly true.
it's not strictly true, no, and I'm doing a disservice to the Porsche engineers. But it is definitely, it's a car that you need to be delicate with, but obviously delicate isn't always quick. So there is this really interesting balance you can get in this car of how much do you throw it around to get time versus how much risk are you willing to take to do that.
Which is where the practice comes in.
Yeah, exactly. And I reckon this is where Watkins Glen is probably a nice bit of respite for the drivers tonight, because we've got, I'd say, turn 9 is always terrifying. That's the left-hander as you come out of the boot. We'll be there in 3 corners time if we're following the number 82 at the moment. But the rest of the track, there's not a cakewalk, but a lot of these corners have similar profiles and similar cambers. Are all high speed, so you can rely on the
this corner.
The car has.
Sorry to interrupt you. This corner here always hammers me because it looks like quite a benign corner, but then it really. Oh, there we go. That's exactly what I do.
That's very helpful to demonstrate what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as if by magic, the commentator's curse strikes. But yeah, so coming around that heel, it really tightens alarmingly, and it's easy to forget how much tighter it gets. So it is in the P2. That's a second gear corner. I don't know whether the gears match up similarly with the P Cup. Have you raced this track in the P Cup?
Not in this car. I've raced it in a lot of cars in the last 3 weeks. It seems to have been on everyone's official schedule.
It is a great track, though.
It's a phenomenal
there's no denying
track,
it.
Yeah. I mean, last season's Skippy League, I think, is the best race I've ever seen on this track. We had 5 drivers within a second for the lead for about 3/4 of the race. And this, where we're coming into now, we're on board at the moment with Stuart Brown, the bus stop chicane. That is probably the best overtaking spot on the track. Although, I would say in the Porsche Cup, if you're willing to put it side by side with someone and you trust them, which is another matter, I think there's far more overtaking opportunities on this track in this car than there would be in, say, the Radical, where the Season 2 of the Radical League was here. And again, it was basically just the bus stop was the only sensible overtaking opportunity because you just lost too much time.
I mean, the bus stop is also a bit of a white knuckle ride as well, because you have to, in the P2s, I know you have to bump over this curb right here as we're just going over, and because the P2 is so hard, it chucks you about because it's quite a big rattly curve. So you have to have some real strength of character to try and overtake in there. I'm not sure I'd risk it, but you've got to try it somewhere, right?
Moves are usually hopefully you're alongside before you enter. I would say if you're not alongside, please abort the move because you will kill both yourself and the guy you're trying to overtake.
It's so narrow though coming in, because to get your line, you have to you're braking hard. I think in the P2 you're braking hard at the 250 between 200 300 board. Drop into second, and the fastest line is a straight line, isn't it? But it's how you get that straight line, so you have to chunk the corners. But if there's someone alongside you, then you have to be a little bit aware and brake maybe harder. And it's, I don't know, man. I definitely think I tend to be doing most of my overtaking through the S's. Get a good exit out of that, the 90, and then, if you're drafting someone, the S's are kind of wide enough to come alongside and then get in front of them and brake for the line.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I think the heat racing format we're using will make it quite interesting as well, because it's sort of, especially in your first heat, it gives you the chance to be a bit more aggressive. Say if you're in 11th or 12th, you're going to want to stick that car ahead of the guy in front of you because the top 10 are getting through, but you also know that it's not the end of your evening if it goes wrong. I'm not saying we're going to see drivers killing people, and there is a protest system if they do that, but I think it does encourage slightly more aggressive driving, which is obviously excellent for us as viewers. Maybe not so excellent if you're the victim of some of the crashes we've seen so far in this league.
And of course, you got I assume you got the magic mechanics between each heat to basically spruce your car up and straighten all the dents out.
Yeah, we have to give a shout out to the mechanics. The hard work they put in pit lane to make sure these cars. I mean, the state of some of these cars, they do an incredible job.
What's the kind of if cars have to pit? Have we got a fast repair on at the moment, or is it
there is
just
fast
normal?
repair? No, as far as I'm aware, certainly I'm looking at the rules page now. Fast repair limit is set to 0.
Okay, right.
I would imagine that to an extent we are not going to see enough chance to get back out with that fast repair, so there's not much point. So we're going to have 17 cars in this first heat. We've got Gavin Halls, the winner of the first 2 races, is in here, with Chris Walley's going to be alongside him on the front row. And we've got quite a strong field lining up behind them. We've got James Armstrong in third, as we've already mentioned, so we could see some interesting racing between those 3 at the front. That's not to discount Michael Hornby, who's in 4th, as we just wait for the remaining
He's
cars.
currently running 10th in the standings, it looks like.
Yeah, it's going to be quite. I think we'll see a lot of movement in the standings tonight. A lot of quick drivers have had incidents in the final race of the evening in the first 2 races, so they're perhaps a little bit out of position.
And Chris Bridle's in the first heat as well, and he's second equal with Dan Baddy in the current standings. So have we got Dan Baddy in this heat?
I think
maybe he's in the other one. If
or
he's hopefully he's
tonight.
joining us. So yeah, okay.
We're just waiting for the last few. Now, last week we did say, me and Nick, we were saying about drivers not gridding until the last second for a psychological advantage, and I've been reading their Discord chat. That was not the case. That was a last-minute panic to make sure the fuel was right. It seems like fueling in this car is a bit of a mystery art. So I've given perhaps a bit too much credit to. I think it was Steve Hughes last time, and it's Steve Hughes again tonight. So it's one way of getting a name on stream, I suppose.
It's we've all done it. We've all dropped fuel for qualifying and then forgotten to do it in the race, and then in the official race you've got to pit early. It's just one of those frustrating things.
Yeah, I've got Tim Cox 88 in the chat, which I assume is Tim Cox, saying, how many deaths are we predicting by the end of the first lap? Tom Carroll saying, yes, T1 death. And here we go.
The lights are up.
Start the first race.
And here we go.
Off. I'll let you do the first lap, Ian.
Okay, here we go. And Chris Wally, Gavin Halls takes first, and Chris Wally edges into second, so the grid is staying in order right now. 47, James Armstrong taking third, goes car 2. Chris Wally goes really wide. There's a bit of accident out the back of that T1 already. If we can get some shots on that. And then, so we've got Chris Wally and James Armstrong in basically vying for second and third. Gavin Halls is already taking a bit of a lead of course, and the first 3 are pulling out nicely. So we've got Michael Coomber in 4th, Stephen Masters in 5th, Chris Bridle in 6th. And here we've got a replay coming up for the T1 accident, and brought to you by Track Cams. Here we go. There's a lot of late braking there. He just nudges car 42. Oh dear me, and it's going to be probably a little bit of a crossword there if the mics are on. But car 13, who caused that, rejoins, and back to car 47 in second position, and he's James Armstrong, and he's pulled up a little bit of time on Gavin Halls. Here we are coming into, I can't get a quick view of the track, it's that turn we were talking about earlier, the heel.
Here, the scary one.
Coming up to turn 9, which is a really strong corner, and you have to really hug that curb in second gear in the P2 at any rate, and then you're hard on the throttle straight away. We're coming up. Michael Hornby has taken that beautifully. Yeah, he's right behind Woods. There's a little nudge in there. Was that a nudge? I don't know. Maybe the car was just bumping around. And that beautiful red livery as well. Here we got coming across the line. Is he going to be challenging Michael Coomber for a place? He was drafting him nicely, late braking.
There, he's dropped quite a few places in the last few corners. I think he might have just had a compromised exit coming out of turn 10, perhaps. Also, I just wanted to point out with that first lap incident between Martin Rendo and Keith Dalton, I believe Keith waited for Martin, which is very kind of him after misjudging his braking point. Easily done on the grid. You bag of nerves. We've all been there. And they're not out of it though. 10th place is only about 3.5 seconds ahead for them, so there's still plenty of time for them to qualify without needing the consolation heat.
Yeah, we're watching Oliver Cavadine, P10, and you're right, Chris. That was a really sportsmanlike gesture to wait and not just show him your heels and just go tough like chum. But yeah, so that's really good. That's the kind of ethos that we kind of strive for in IRUK.
And we're still on board. Of the time we've seen it. Now that is a move you can try in a lot of cars around there. There's still grip on the outside, while the inside line is preferable. He's been able to get on the throttle earlier, so is he going to be able to make a move here into the heel? He's looking. He's not going to outbrake him though. I think that's sensible. We've still got 17 minutes of racing left. No point killing yourself when you're not that far behind 10th here. We've got a bit of a battle here between Denny Wood and Michael Hornby just behind him. Hornby's lost 4 places from his start, so he'll be looking to recover a bit there. Denny Wood's made up 2. That will be Hornby.
And it's looking like James Armstrong is moving up, and he is... he runs wide on that. James Armstrong runs wide. My fault. So Wally was the one who ran wide, trying to maintain exit speed.
Yeah, we did see in the F3 League a few times people really going wide into that exit of turn 1, and it does just allow you to maybe get a run here, but again, discretion the better part of valour, not going for the move, but we might see a move here between the 22 and the 10, which is Bridle and Masters. Better exit through the middle of the corner for Masters, but he's not been able to get through. Bridle is making that car as wide as possible, and he's kept the position so far, and it's forming a bit of a train. Not a deliberate tactic, but the nice thing for Bridle there is it means Vance Briggs right behind Stephen Masters now, so he's got 2 things to think about. He can't just focus on trying to get past him. Chris Bridle was actually our biggest gainer from the start. He's starting 10th and he's currently up in 4th.
That's right, but he's also looking like he's being challenged by at least 4 other cars, so maybe he's lapping a little bit more slowly because they just seem to be queuing up behind him. They're all taking that draft. And you were right about the bus stop. You saw a move just there, but here we go. That was a late break there, coming into my least favourite corner, the heel, back up to your least favourite corner. And here we go, Martin Randall has just... that's a shame, he's just fallen to last after that spin on T1. And he's just going to be looking to make up positions. Number 18 goes a little bit wide there on that corner that I'm not a fan of.
But that was exactly what we were saying earlier. If you go just a little bit wide in turn 9 there, it compromises so much. And he just gained that position from Rendell, and he's lost it again. And Anthony Franklin, just in front, did the same thing. And just about kept it onto the tarmac. So luckily he keeps 15th, still in the shout for that top 10 today.
That's right, because that grass is like ice, isn't it, basically? I mean, any of the grass is like ice, I imagine, in this. If you even touch it, you're going to be going on a bit of a pirouette, hopefully not meeting the barrier.
Yes, until we broadcast a Rallycross League, you don't really want to be on the grass in anything that we're broadcasting on this channel.
That's right, the GT3s are also a lot of rear-wheel drive. Now, look, this is exactly where you were saying again. There's a bit of an attempt there. Oliver Cavadine. He's maybe coming out a little bit slowly and allowed Sanford to catch up a little bit. And they're going round the chute, and that's often a corner I really struggle with too sometimes, because it's so long. If you don't get the apex right, you're going to compromise your exit, or you're braking too much and you lose a lot of time.
Yeah, it's like we were saying earlier, this is not the easiest track on the calendar. Just because it's not the sort of technical nightmare that Snetterton is, you've still got to concentrate around all these corners. But that move from Carwadine there on Coomber, which didn't come off, that's possibly cost him here, because Rob Sanford is in 11th, right behind him, and obviously if Sanford takes that position, Carwadine's got to go into the consolation heat, whereas right now, as it stands like this, Carwadine would go straight through to the final. If I'm Michael Coomber, I am desperately trying to get away from these guys.
This is true, but I mean, did you see Rob? He went a little bit wide. He didn't judge that toe corner correctly and lost quite a bit of time. He was right on Cowadine's boot, but he's now dropped back by 6/10. So that toe corner, he didn't take quite the right line through that. So you can see him trying to catch up now. He's drafting. He's only he's caught up a little bit of time. Look, he's only 4.5 tenths behind. Is he going to try late braking and go a little bit wider and maintain a bit more exit speed? There we go. What have we got now? He's lost a little bit of time, maybe 500s. And of course, if you don't get... Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Sorry. The other trouble he's got here is obviously Coomber is giving Carradine the draft, so it's not like he can just draft him and take it easy up here. But they've got a nice gap back to P12, which is Craig Schill. So if these three cooperate, they can probably look more at fighting towards the end of the race rather than if they battle now. This could bring Schill, Hughes, Dalton, Rendell. Armstrong and Franklin appear to have dropped quite a way off, so they might just be saving their mental energy for the consolation heat. But if these three can cooperate, then two of them will have a nice easy passage through.
That's true, but also that turn one, the 90 degree is... There we go, we've got a crash. James Armstrong.
It's been a bad few seconds for the Armstrongs. So this is Rob Armstrong. Just, I think, a little bit too wide on entry and maybe having too much speed. He's just lost it. Very easily done. We saw a lot of that in the F3. It's not a corner I've traditionally associated with sliding off, certainly not on exit like that, but you are desperate to get the power down and sometimes you get overexcited with it.
It looked like he got the power down a little bit early. The back stepped out. Here we go, James, who's third. There we go, the power down a little bit early. Luckily, didn't seem to have too much damage. And we got another replay of Rob Sanford going again. Car number 73 we're looking at. Again, a little bit early on the throttle, bumped the nose. That's going to ruin his aero and it will ruin the top speed a little bit, I think, because the air won't be able to pass smoothly.
I wonder if he was distracted by Coomber, who went slightly wide in that corner as well. But a lot of action all of a sudden. We had a nice calm first 5-6 minutes, and it's all beginning to kick off as we see Craig Schill here on the replay. Another one losing it into turn one. Someone's obviously been spraying oil over there at Watkins Glen this last week or so.
The thing is, I was just about to say before all this kicked off, that turn one is probably the most important corner because you've got that long charge through the S's and up the back straight. And it's really important to get a good exit. So you can see why they want to get on the throttle soon, because it's easy to lose a lot of time up there if you don't get it just right.
Exactly. I will say James Armstrong got away with his spin, although he does now have a train of 5 other cars behind him, although James probably has the pace if he's not got any damage to not worry so much. But of course the trouble for him now is one more incident and he is shooting down the order and suddenly staring at potentially the consolation heat.
I mean, James, I think it was James that bumped the rear quarter of his car against the Armco, and you said earlier these cars are quite fragile, so it may not affect him, it may not, I don't know. I think probably would affect his top speed.
Like with all the GT cars, you can take a few hits and you're not going to lose so much top speed that you're out of the running. It's not like an open wheel car where if you lose a wing element, that's sort of your race done, especially on the higher speed circuits. But obviously, everyone's going to want as little damage to their cars as possible, so it's never ideal. But it does look like he has already made a bit of a gap there. He's got now nearly 2 seconds to Chris Bridle behind him. So we've still got this 4-car train here with Bridle, Briggs, Masters and Hornby. So if you're say for example Steve Hughes down in 11th, obviously he's probably not paying too much attention to what's going on between 5th, 6th and 7th and 8th. But it's not going to take a huge amount of chaos in front of him for him to qualify into that top 10. But even if he doesn't,
true, but I mean he is 3 seconds behind. Well, he's caught up a little bit of time actually. He's now 2.5 seconds behind, so it's not beyond the bounds of possibility to start challenging Carradine in 10th place.
It's also nice sometimes to not have to be in a mentally draining battle for the entire race. And in P11, I believe that means he'll be starting quite a bit higher up in the consolation heat, which is an advantage in itself, so long as you can survive lap 1.
Saw Oliver get the line wrong a little bit there in the chute as he kind of backed off before I think he went on the power a little bit too early and had to back off, so he'd get around the corner and maybe lost a little bit of time to Michael Coomber there.
Yeah, they're all behaving themselves so far. We've not seen too much in the way of silliness yet, although as you say that we see the 56 of Michael Hornby just poking his nose out to see if he can make a move, because we are getting into the latter stages of the race now, and every position is useful because it will mean you start slightly higher up in the final round.
That's right. I mean,
not worth sending it over, but still have a look.
I think these drivers are probably a little bit too seasoned to be rattled by the old adage, show 'em your nose on the inside of the corner and make a braking mistake. Because he is, Michael Hornby is pretty close. He's only, well, he's a tenth of a second off, and he's going really wide there. He's definitely not getting hit. It seems like quite a wide lunge, but he's lost to the aero, and he's going to try and brake a little bit late, and that was a beautiful overtake. That was really nice. Will the car 18 be able to retake that position? No. That was a lovely overtake from Michael Hornby.
It was intelligent driving from both of them, because Hornby very early signalled what he was going to do, but also Stephen Masters took a very wide line into turn 1 just to try and get that better toe and better exit out of the corner, although as you're seeing here, he's not able to take advantage, but it does mean that Denny Wood in 8th isn't able to capitalise on that compromised entry from Masters.
And that battle we were watching earlier between Michael Coomber and Oliver Cowadine has paid off for Oliver. He's moved up a position into 9th. So now Steve Hughes is probably looking to catch Michael Coomber. Here's the overtake for Oliver. Let's see what he does. And that was a lovely overtake as well. And I think Michael Coomber, again, as you said earlier, that was an intelligent driving, gave him a bit of space. Even he acknowledged that he'd lost the position and didn't try any rash moves and take them both out. So he's hopefully going to settle for 10th unless he can retake in the inner loop.
Yes, Hughes is catching up. He's only now a second and a bit behind, but he's also dragging Dalton and Rendell with him. So this is going to be a very stressful last 5 minutes for Carwadine and Coomber, I suspect.
And
the rest of the lads further up don't need to worry so much. They've got a 7.5 second gap. So as long as they play ball with each other, it's really Carwadine and Coomber that are in the stressful zone right now.
And that's right, Chris. And when you know full well that when you're battling with someone, your time drops off, doesn't it? You tend to lose concentration on the line and your laps slow. It's just a natural facet of the battle which allows cars behind you to catch up. So you want to get past and get on.
It is one of the good things about these league racing compared to official racing, because you develop that relationship with the other drivers. You can trust them a bit better to have a sensible battle with you, as opposed to in the officials. You always get that, you see a couple of names you recognise, but it's often anonymous people who are out there to destroy your race, it feels like. So it's been nice to see more cooperative driving tonight.
Producer Sean has just told us that there's been Rob Sandwood has come off again. He's fallen off the track. I don't know if we've got a replay queued up for that. We'll find out maybe shortly. But right now we're still following the battle for Steve Hughes and for Michael Coomber. And Keith Dalton has overtaken Steve Hughes. Oh dear! Oh my goodness!
They've managed not to collect Coomber there.
Victim. That's great, but I wonder if the undertray is a little bit damaged there, because the downforce projected by the undertray is here we go, and there was probably some, I'm not quite sure what happened. I couldn't really see at the corner of the screen, but it looked like they just went straight on. So maybe he didn't brake.
There was a fair amount of mirror driving there, because obviously Hughes had been catching up and Dalton was trying to get past him, and Coomber was probably watching that battle in his rearview mirror, and he's very lucky they didn't collect him. But thankfully, again, the rejoin from everyone was nice and sensible. And there's still a chance here. Dalton is within 0.7 of a second, and Rendell and Hughes are still just behind them, although Hughes is now at the back of this queue. And the clock is ticking. We are slowly running out of time. We've got 3.5 minutes left. I think that means that will either be 2 laps and just getting there before the clock. It might be 3. I think if you're Dalton or Rendell, you're wanting it to be 3 laps. You need as much time as possible to try and get in. If you're anyone in the top 10, you are begging Gavin Halls to get across that line just after the 20-minute timer has gone. Looks like Dalton and Coomber running the same livery, so they may be teammates. So are they going to play ball, or is there going to be a sort of a teammate rivalry going on here, Ian, do you reckon?
Yeah, there's going to be like pit orders, and it's like you stay in position. But what you were saying about there's very few minutes left of the race, there might be some anxious accelerator pedals shortly, because there'll be like it'll be on their minds that there's not much time left. And that was a beautiful draft. Is he going to be able to? He's not going to be able to take. He's going to late brake inside. It's all over the back of him right there. And is he going to get a good exit or the chute? He's got a better line. He's going to carry more speed. Is there going to be an overtake? Sorry, around the outer loop, my fault, and it's coming around the chute. Oh my goodness. That is terrible. That really got to him, and you could see he was feeling the pressure. That's a real shame there for Michael Coomber.
And now it's Keith Dalton's turn to feel the pressure with Martin Rendell behind him for this last qualification spot straight into the final race.
We've got a replay.
Just going a little bit too hot there into
I think so.
the chute. We've all done it. Especially when you're under pressure. You're trying to find every mile per hour you can. And again, these cars punish you if you get something ever so slightly wrong.
Oh my goodness, that was
crash in the background there.
That was a big crash there.
That's Steve Hughes who's going to have to nurse that back now, I think.
He was obviously trying a little bit too hard there to try and make up some places. Here we go. There's a bit of a replay now. What's going on? He catches the curb, doesn't he? That offsets his balance. My goodness, that's a big one.
We've all done that as well. Just
absolutely.
A lot of cars, it doesn't then destroy you like that. If you do that in the radical, it's uncomfortable, but you carry on.
Because the curbs on this track, the curbs on some tracks are really forgiving. They're really flat, but particularly around the toe and your least favourite corner, those curves are massive. And if you really bump them in anything that's vaguely hard, then it's going to bounce you off. As we saw. Oh my goodness, that was a really good effort. There's a lot of attention to detail in there. And is he really hassling him?
Bridle, Briggs and Hornby here, I think, have done very well to remain this close to each other without any contact.
Absolutely.
35 seconds left. I suspect this is going to be the last lap. I don't think Halls can do the last 4 corners in under 30 seconds, if I can tell where we are anyway. I wonder if we'll see him deliberately slow down at the line so he doesn't have to do another lap if it is going to be close. Yeah, it's 20 seconds to go, that's 15, and I think, unless Rendell can pull some absolute blistering pace out of the tank from somewhere, we've probably got our top 10 settled here. It might be worth him. He's going to have a high starting position in the consolation heat here. It might be worth just sort of counting, just taking it easy and live to fight another day. Yep, there we go. The checkered flag's coming out, so this is the white flag lap we've been on. Another win for Halls.
Great drive for Halls.
Got the fastest lap, because that's the only point he'll be getting from here. No, the fastest lap looks like it was Chris Wally with a 48.62, a full 2/10 quicker than Halls. So it looks like Wally has got the top speed advantage over Halls, but Halls is perhaps just a touch more consistent. As we see, Carwadine and Dalton will be the next 2 across the line, and they will be the last qualifiers straight through to the heat, with Martin Rendell in 11th.
That guy with the flag, he's got the strongest right arm in history.
They do. I mean, they really do impress me. Some of the mechanics and the staff members at the Watkins Glen circuit here, they're very, very dedicated to their craft.
Superhuman, one might say.
Yeah, that was I've compared that to Snetterton 2 weeks ago. That was a very well-behaved heat. So even the incidents we did see, they weren't caused from constant contact. It was just the challenges of the track.
Absolutely, it was a joy to watch. Results will be coming up on your screens fairly shortly. And here we are. So we've got Gavin Halls, which you saw him cross the line in first, Chris Wally second, and with the fastest lap, that will be awarded later. James Armstrong in third, Chris Bridle in fourth, Vance Briggs in fifth. There didn't seem to be a great deal of drama in those top 5. Most of the action was like 6 to 10 and below, wasn't it, Chris?
It really was, but again, I think if you're in that top 5, you want to cooperate with your colleagues because you don't want to get crashed out. I've just popped in the Discord to read the Porsche Cup chat, and James Armstrong, I think I would call this a brag. He's only just got home at 8:30 and hasn't touched the rig since Thursday, so to be able to pop in and just put it on the podium from that, and he was challenging for the top 2 positions as well. That would be quite disheartening if I was one of the other drivers here. But here we are with Heat 2. We're just waiting for one driver to grid up, and then we will be go. We've got Mark Baxter-Jones and Dan Bathy on the front row, with Johnny Elliott and Tom Slater on the second row. So we've got a lot of quick drivers here as well.
As you saw earlier, as we talked about earlier, apologies, Dan Bathy is currently second equal with Chris Bridle, and here we go.
So it looks like we've got a few teammates here as well, and it looks like Baxter-Jones is going to take the lead into the first corner, and Dan Bathy has been able to keep that second place, so much the same as the first heat, although so far no death on turn one. But we've still got a big drafting opportunity up into the bus stop. Are we going to see shenanigans, or is everyone going to behave? I think compared to 2 weeks ago, there's fewer drivers in these races, so there's perhaps less pressure to get through in this heat, because you're going to have a simpler time of it in the consolation.
We've got some guys
so
having
far,
a look.
Yep, we've had a few sort of pokes of the nose in, but no real moves yet here. Everyone is just taking it nice and easy, because it's a 20-minute race.
The bus stop is terrifying on cold tyres.
It hasn't actually entered the race, so we've only got 16 cars going, it appears. So that's unfortunate for Mark. If he is around, he will be able to race in the consolation race still, I believe, so it's not his race over.
Was he not able to start from the pits, Chris?
He never gridded, so I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe a technical issue.
Yeah, it looks like he might be starting from the pits, but no, our timing tower says he's out entirely and he's not putting any times on, so
I think
maybe
aside
he's just
from
going to
practice, there's not much point for him coming out now if he is around.
I'd go for the practice, me, just to like get used to the car, the track, the conditions, the temperatures, you know, all the same old stuff. And there's a little bit of a kick there.
I was just about to say we've had a very clean lap one, and luckily for me it wasn't commentator's curse. Unfortunately, Paul Stout has just lost it in that tricky turn 9. He has got going again. He's probably going to have a bit of damage, but this again, you know, we've got a very closely packed grid here. There could be a lot more incidents to come. And again, you know, you just go slightly wide, power slightly too early on, and that is so easy to do. Doesn't matter what car you're driving.
A lot of damage there.
I've seen tidier looking cars, but that is still drivable, as we see a fight here for the 10th place position between Martin Robinson and Kane Crawford, I believe Stuart Brown as well. And we've had someone hit the barriers, and that was someone in top 10. I believe that was Stephen Kershaw, who was dropping right. Oh no, that's probably his race over. Too much damage, I suspect. Steering damage. Let's have a look what happened, Stephen, there.
Yeah, he's off into the pits
so we
now.
could potentially go into a replay as we follow the rest of the guys round. So if you're those last few guys, he looks like he's had multiple issues. Yep, that car is not drivable. I think he tried to get going again, and that's his race done. That's very unfortunate. As we just rewind it here to see what happens. Looks like he's just touched that inside curb as he's coming up the S's. Just
there we go.
Oh, it's so easily done.
Goodness me, I don't know if we've got anyone in the pits to tell us how long his repairs are going to be, but I think his race might be over.
I think that's go to the consolation heat levels of trouble, and Rockstar has actually left the pits, so he is taking that practice, but he is going to have to go into the consolation round. I wonder if this will work out for him, because I think, you know, let's say adrenaline is a finite resource of our bodies, as we see a little poke on the inside from the 19 of Kane Crawford there on Martin Robinson. He's going to have a nice relaxing Sunday drive for the next 15 minutes, and he'll be nice and fresh for the consolation heat. That might help him quite a lot. I don't know, I might be talking complete and utter. I won't finish that sentence. I don't know how family friendly we're supposed to be.
That sounds like a bold strategy, Cotton.
Yeah, let's see if it pays off. But yeah, we've not actually seen too much movement from the guys from their starting position. Colin Wynn, let's give him a shout out. He's gone up 5 positions, started last and is currently in P12. He's at the back of this train here. If I were Colin Wynn in the yellow and grey car, if I were him, I'd just sort of sit back, relax, and if he's still in P12 with 2 or 3 laps to go, start seeing if he can get some moves done now. As we see, the 23 has done the same thing there. Oh dear. Someone's definitely left some oil on the track, it appears. That's Mark Johnson, who's done the same thing as Stephen Kershaw 1 lap later. And I believe that's his race over as well.
Replay. Oh, he did exactly the same. You're right, it is exactly the same. Bounced off that inner Armco. Luckily, he had enough presence of mind to like back into the Armco and not collect any of the cars.
It's very difficult, especially when you've just had that crash and you're stressed out by it. You don't know, you know, you want to hold the brakes, but that can make the car, if you lock them and you're going backwards, that car is going anywhere. So I think he did the right thing to just let it freewheel until the other guy made it obvious which direction he was going. So let's give him some kudos for the safest possible way to crash.
Absolutely.
But again, this is the glory of heat racing, is these guys that have crashed out, that's not their evening over. They've still got more chances to get into that final round. I mean, they could still win the whole thing. It would be an absolutely phenomenal comeback. I would love to see that. I don't think the chaps like Mark Baxter-Jones and Dan Batty and the chaps from the first heat, I don't think they're going to be too happy if someone does a last to first challenge with the amount of cars we'll have in the final round. Yeah, it's been, aside from these weird crashes through the S's, it's been a pretty calm race, especially considering how close these guys are to each other. We've got 9 cars on the grid, I believe, might be 8 cars on the grid, who are within a second of each other. If this were me, I'd be panicking round about now, and my driving would be going out the window. And perhaps that's what happened through the S's. Hopefully these guys can tackle it safely. So far, so good.
What you're talking about?
What
you're talking about mirror watching earlier, Chris? Sorry, it's just it's like about 2 weeks ago I turned off the virtual rearview mirror, and it's improved things immeasurably. You don't worry about stuff behind you anywhere near as much. It's actually quite good.
I think, yeah, it's sometimes you just have to...
off there in the loop. I saw someone bounce off the Armco, I think. That was Roberts. We're going to get a replay from this here, I think. Here it comes.
And that's just a bit too much curb. That's the one curb that these cars don't particularly like, and that's the number 13.
There was a double crash there. Car 13 went off the inside, but he looks like he's got going again. Is he going to take the inside of Chris? Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
Slater had a very, very busy race last time out. And I think, just a bit too much energy going into the bus stop. Perhaps that provided the distraction. That's not really mirror driving, it happens in front of you. But it's sort of the same concept, I suppose.
I think he wanted his line, and he was going too fast for his line.
But that's what I think is happening in the... Slater's in P10. He was up in P4 when he started, but he's still got that 10th position. But he's got Chris Roberts for company. And I believe Michael Rowe and Nick Alexander are a bit further down the road, but they'll be seeing that. Michael Rowe has popped up 4 positions since the start. He's up to 12th. As we saw in the last race, 2 and a bit seconds, if these guys are fighting, that can come down. And we've still got 13 minutes left in this heat, so plenty of time. Adam Holloway as well in 4th is very close with Peter Plasto right behind him. It's less than 2/10 they are to each other now. Are we going to see a move through the S's? Or we might even see a move before. No. But that is a compromised exit from Holloway. And it's all starting to kick off now a bit. I want to keep going through my pet theory of what's happening in the S's, although so much has happened I'm beginning to forget what it was. Probably wasn't the case anyway. Probably
you were thinking some enterprising better had been pouring oil on the inside of the curb. I think that's...
Well, it's what I would have done.
Why
but I think it's an element of these guys have been practicing and then qualifying, and they've mostly been on their own. And suddenly you've got cars right behind and right in front of you, and you're on cold tyres as well, and you're pushing, and you've got that draft. You wouldn't have had that draft in qualifying, for example, because it's just yourself on track. And I think that extra bit of speed and the dirty air, it's just a little bit too much for all these cars, which again, we said before, you're driving them on an absolute knife edge. And they've just slightly pushed it too hard going through the S's, and that's what's happened, I would imagine.
So I'm interested. So Tom Slater was obviously quick, and he was in 4th. Now currently 10th, and he's being challenged for that position. The lap just before he tonked it, he did his best of 1:49.99. I'm interested when he finishes this lap to see whether he's got any damage, and he's off again, and they're both off again. Goodness, I'm not sure if we can get a replay. Was there a touch there from car 77 from Chris Roberts? Maybe unintentional. Let's see what's what.
Oh, it's
really close. Yeah, it's just a little bump, and it's so easily done. If you miss your braking point, or the person in front brakes harder than you were actually ready for, it looks like he waited for him to retake the position, but he's out of the top 10. He's now 12th.
Got Michael Rowe here all on his own in P10. This is, if you're in that last qualifying position, this is exactly what you'd like to see, because he can just relax at the moment. He doesn't
Dream
have to worry
position.
about a P9 slowing him down in front of him. He can just drive his own race, calm down. 5 seconds to Chris Roberts behind, who might be a quicker driver, seeing as he qualified slightly higher, but he might well have damage now. And Plasto, it appears, has finally got past Holloway. Let's see if we can have any sort of counter move here, because they're very evenly matched on pace, as Colin Wynn is going for an overtake there as well on Stuart Brown. I think Stuart Brown must have had a compromised exit there, because that looks like a very clean overtake. And yeah, we've got the gaps beginning to open up now. We've only got the 3 pairs of drivers that are sort of still within a second of each other.
There we go. We're on board with Colin Wynn, and
there was a bit of brake blocking going on there.
Yeah, but I think he was also really aware of Colin being on the inside, and he got the line. Stuart Brown had basically couldn't brake hard enough to maintain.
If this were the final race of the evening and that was for P1 and P2, I don't think you'd have seen such a conciliatory way of leaving the track.
No.
You would have seen Stuart Brown probably try and push Colin Wynn wide there, because it's probably Colin attacking him there that has caused that lockup. Because again, these cars are hard enough to drive quickly in isolation, let alone when you're defending for your life.
That's right, and P10 is still sitting pretty.
Yeah, this is a far less adrenaline pumping race compared to last time. Maybe we can have a look at some of the Twitch comments we've received the evening. Obviously, feel free to leave a comment if you are. So it looks like Rob Sanford has got new pedals, and didn't look like they did the job for him, unfortunately. Chris Edison's pointing out. Jan Carwadin was cheering on Ollie Carwadin. I think that was in the previous split. I think he made it through in the end. It's so long ago now.
I think he was P9. I think he got P9.
So yeah, that's good that he's got a cheer squad in tonight, and that he's managed to get through straight to the final race. 306 Rally, who I should know who that is, because you're in our comments all the time. I recognise your name when someone else points it out. He's cheering on Colin, so Colin's doing him proud at the moment in P8.
You see Dan Bathy entering the inner loop there. He's bounced off that curb. He properly jumped, got a bit of air. He's really trying to wring every bit of performance out of that car to maintain his second position, because he's got Johnny Elliott in third behind him, challenging. He's not really within challenging space, but he's definitely going to be in his rearview mirror, and he's definitely going to be thinking about it.
Yeah, I think you want to use this almost as a scouting race, like see where your opponents. It's almost better if you're behind someone, because with Johnny Elliott here and Dan Bathy, Elliott can just see how Bathy takes these corners, and if he happens to be ahead of him in the final race, he's going to have a lot more intel than Bathy has on him in terms of how he's taking those corners.
He's not massively faster though. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that is kind of 4D chess there, Chris. But I mean, Johnny Elliott is only what 15.15 slower than Dan Bathy, so there's not a great deal in it. I mean, I know if you offline on some corners you can lose a tenth, but that's very close indeed.
Yeah, I think the track might have slowed down a bit. I wonder if it's perhaps a bit hotter at the moment. We are currently looking at, see if I can just get it. The track is 42 degrees at the moment. That is yeah, it will have warmed up. That is nice and hot, because the fastest lap times in this race are nearly a second slower than what we were seeing in Heat 1. And I think that also means we're going to see a few more slidey oversteer incidents as we get in towards the end of this heat, and certainly in the consolation heat where it's panic stations time, as Tom Slater goes for a move into turn 1 on Chris Roberts. Roberts has taken the wide exit, but that will allow him to get the power on a bit earlier, so Slater's probably not going to be able to attack into here. So we see
and carry more speed.
Robinson, Wynn and Brown here, or is it Crawford? Crawford in front, Robinson is in the middle of the sandwich, and then Wynn again just chilling out in 8th here. He's not worrying too much because he knows he's qualifying. No need to get too involved with these death incidents. Slater's going for the move here, and he's got it. Has he got it done? That was a very, very well done move, and well done to Chris Roberts
overtake.
being...
Oh, and he's retaking it. Is he going to be the switch? Oh goodness me! Was that a touch?
More contact.
Was that another touch?
It looked like there was a. It certainly sounded like there was a touch.
Goodness. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there was a touch.
I think at this, as much as that's probably frustrating for the both of them, they weren't fighting for 10th position. Might as well get it out of your system now, if that's how that works. As we're seeing Colin Wynn on the inside here of Robinson. Is he going for a move? No, Robinson's got out. I think Robinson was more confident on the brakes there. But again, as we're saying, I don't think Wynn needs to pressure him too much. Just, let him know he's there. If he makes a mistake, it's a free position for you. But no need to stress yourself out too much with 5 minutes left of this heat.
I think there might be a bit of bad blood between Tom and Chris there, Chris Roberts and Tom Slater. So I think it's probably one to watch for in the consolation race, maybe. If they're kind of like facing off against each other in corners, there might be a bit more aggressive driving.
As much space between them as possible.
Maybe, but then also there'll be a lot of hot-headed. I don't know these two drivers, so maybe they can kind of like get over it. But there might be still a bit of hot-headedness, a residual hot-headedness, because it's still going to be quite fresh in their mind, and that was 3 times in this race. So it's not as if it's a single incident.
Yeah. Once is unfortunate, twice is perhaps a coincidence, but 3 times is a lady. So that was awful. I apologise. I'll leave the jokes to Nick and Tim, if you can even call that a joke. That's a lot of curb there from Robinson. Doesn't seem to have costed too much time, but he is gaining on Kane Crawford just in front. But again, these 3 are driving sort of quite pensively, I would say. They're looking for overtaking positions without absolutely sending it, because again, they don't want to cost too much. And talk about Michael Rowe, he's got even bigger gaps now. He's got 4 seconds back to Chris Roberts, and he's got 7 seconds to Stuart Brown, who is beginning to be in his own little no man's land in 9th as well.
You see Martin Robinson braking a little bit later there, and he managed to regain some time in the toe.
Defending into the heel corner. Doesn't take any curbs, he's all right. And is this going to allow Colin Wynn in at all? No, I think again it's just seeing what lines work here. It's not. I wouldn't say they're racing as hard as they can. They're making it very clear very early what they're doing with these moves, which is excellent racing, because you don't want to be making that second switch, because it just that seed of doubt is what leads to the crashes we've been seeing. But these 3 are now within a second of each other, and yet to see any shenanigans from them, which is nice. I mean, I'm sure all of us appreciate a good crash, but we want to see good racing before we see good crashes. And are we going to see moves into turn 1 here? Nope, they're going in line astern at the moment. I don't rate a turn 1 overtaking opportunity here. I think, like we were saying earlier, Ian, you want to save it for either through the S's, although perhaps not in this car. They're saying in the Porsche Cup Discord chat how a lot of them can't even take the S's full throttle. As you see, a bit of curb there for Martin Robinson. He's managed to keep it out of the barrier, but this is going to give Colin Wynn a run into the bus stop. Is he side by side nearly?
Yes, there he goes. He's got the line.
And but he's outbraked himself. Kane Crawford's kept an eye on it. That was hairy, but
and everyone
luckily
maintains the same positions.
This brings Brown back into the 4, but Rowe in 10th is still just chilling out. It must be quite nice actually for these heat races, if you're in 10th, to not have to be panicking the whole way around, as we saw with Carradine, and apologies, I've forgotten who he was racing last time out.
Chris Roberts has edged up on him though. He's now 3.3 seconds behind instead of 5, so there's maybe something to worry about. I mean, but there is only 2 minutes, so what's that? That's going to be 1.5 laps. So yeah,
it'll be 1 lap after this, I think.
He's gained 2 seconds in the last 5 laps or so, so I can't see there being a real danger there. You just have to maintain your line.
Yeah, this will be the last lap unless he pulls out the kind of speed that would make everyone terrified that was aiming to win this race that isn't called Mark Baxter Jones.
And he's a good, healthy lead there. It's 3.5 seconds. That's something to be thankful for.
Yeah, both our 2 heat leaders have had very chilled out races so far today. I'll be interested. I doubt the consolation race will be the same, because we're going to have some very evenly paced guys in that one. Tim Cox was very kindly in the Twitch chat, said, nice effort as a joke there, Rowlands. I'll let you have that one. He's being very kind, considering I peer pressured him into singing in round 1 of the Porsche Cup. Thankfully, he's yet to find a driver whose name scans quite so well to a song that he can peer pressure me into doing the same.
But you're right with the leaders for the heats. They've just basically started in first place and driven away, which is every racer's dream.
Yep. As we're seeing, Robinson and Crawford are going for another one here. That's been a bit cleaner than last lap, although that's perhaps because Colin's not overexcited. He outbraked himself into the bus stop, although he has got Brown for company in the back here. they're not going to want to go for anything too crazy, because as much as Michael Rowe is 9 seconds back, if it could take, you know, the wrong crash could take well more than 10 seconds to recover from, and Chris Roberts in 11th is not that far behind Rowe.
That's right. I mean, oh goodness, is he going to try go? No, he's. I wondered whether he was going to try the inside line there, but yeah. I mean, you're right though.
Completely valid tactic.
You're right. It's totally just. Oh goodness, that was a big slunge. Yeah, I think his wheel hit the grass there, and but he's still going to maintain that position. So you're right though. It is just maintain position at this stage.
It's not just this
Don't do anything
it's going to
silly.
be Brown now. As Mark Baxter-Jones crosses the line to win the second heat and go straight through into the final. And nice big 3.5 second gap back to Dan Bathy, who will take second, and then third is Johnny Elia. Moving nice and evenly spread out here. Peter Plasto's coming through in fourth. He's gained 2 spots on his grid position. Adam Holloway coming through in fifth, and then we can have a nap basically until the next guys come through. And that'll be Kane Crawford in 6th, Martin Robinson 7th, Colin Wynn in 8th, who made up 9 position. He started at the back of the grid, so to finish 8th, and you know, he was looking racy. He could have easily taken Kane and Martin had any of those moves come off. And we've got Wynn, Brown and Rowe rounds out the top 10. That will be our 10 straight through to the final. We'll have Chris Roberts, Nick Alexander, Tom Slater, Paul Stout, Mark Starr, who did get going and managed 10 laps in the end. Stephen Kershaw and Mark Johnson will all go through to the consolation heat, which will be up next. And yeah, we are just going to wait as the next drivers grid up. This will be the consolation round, so this is going to be everyone who didn't finish in the top 10 of the last 2 races we've seen. The top 10 of this race will round out the final round, which will be 30 drivers. So it does actually mean we're only losing 4 drivers tonight. I suspect we're seeing a few hangovers from the football from last night, because obviously it's coming home. So yeah, we are. It just means a little bit more relaxing for the drivers in this constellation. Obviously, 4 people aren't going to have a good time, but they it will probably be people who get crashed out, because I suspect we're going to see slightly more aggressive driving here. As I think, yep, we're just going to start gridding up here now. So we're going to have Martin Rendell on pole. Although let's just quickly look at the results here from Heat 2. So we did have 14 drivers finish on the lead lap, but a 50-second spread, which for a 20-minute race just shows you how quickly the front guys are running. Because, you know, these guys outside the top 10, they are not bad drivers. They are quick themselves. I mean, if you put someone like me in a car here, I'd be in 18th right now, and that's without having crashed. I'd just be 9 laps down on merit. It looks like we've all gridded up, so we've got 14 drivers on the grid here. Top 10 are going to be going through. Rendell and Roberts on the front row, followed by Coomber and Alexander. As we have the lights begin to go out. And we're off, and that looks like quite a slow start for Roberts. He's immediately down, and Rendell is probably going to be able to take the first corner. He's got the inside line. Is Coomber going to challenge? He's left space, that's good to see. You don't want to ruin your own race this early into it. All 14 drivers have made it through safely. And, oh, yep, and we've got Roberts, Rendell, Coomber, Schill is our top 4 as we come up through the S's. So we are seeing moves through the S's. That's incredibly brave. But I suppose if you're near the back of the grid, and Nick Alexander seems to have a problem. He's down to 12th, starting 4th. But we're seeing Roberts and Rendell. We're seeing Rendell has made a move on the inside into the bus stop. Looks like he's made that stick. That's a lot of curb. That is very brave, but he has not lost it. But that is compromised, and Roberts is going for the inside here. He's got back into the lead, and it looks like Coomber might have a run on Roberts here as well, or Rendell rather. Yeah, this is already more action than we saw in the last heat. Blimey! Oh, and that was a touch. Number 13 is going to collect him. That's very unfortunate. That was. Slater seems to have been caught in it too. Perhaps promoted Mark Johnson up to 10th, although Tom Slater's now into 10th, so perhaps Johnson had an issue. Everyone's moving around. The top 3 at the moment is Roberts, Coomber, Armstrong, but apart from Roberts, everyone is still neck and neck. Oh, that's just a small touch. I think that's probably a race. From just what we've seen there, that's a racing incident. He slightly moved. He had the corner, but he did move in on someone who had nowhere to go. It's your sort of standard lap 1 adrenaline pumping incident, and it's obviously horrible to see for the drivers, but there's not a huge amount either of them could have done about that, I suspect. Rob Armstrong, I thought, there did very well to keep the positioning considering how wide he was going through into turn 9. And you see we've got a lot of cars very close together now. Chris Roberts has already checked out in first. Michael Coomber has got a nice bit of space in second. Roberts being the main beneficiary of that accident coming through the outer loop into the chute. So he can run a nice easy race now. And Mark Starr, he was, oh, big incident on the start line. Oh dear. That appears to be Starr, Franklin and Stout. I was just about to say how Mark Starr had done well to be able to get to this race after what happened in the previous one. It looks like Stout is out. I didn't mean to do that. I apologise for using your name for rhymes. Franklin has also gone to the pit, so we've now only got 2 drivers that are looking at. So what happened here? So that was a unfortunately poor exit for Stout, and that's so unfortunate. I think that's probably netcode. They were certainly a little bit of movement, but it wasn't like they were covering each other off. It was just, I think it's just one, again, maybe I'm a softie, but for me that is another racing incident, and Mark Starr there looks like he has nearly terminal damage. So we're now going to have just the one driver that won't make it through. We actually get to a point here, if we have more drivers crash out, if 10th is crashed out but no one else behind them, they'll still make it into the final round, I believe. It's not like they have to finish on the final lap. They just have to be in 10th at the end of the race.
Just finish.
Yeah, that's all we need, just to finish. And we have got the 11 drivers still here. So at the moment we've got Slater in 10th and Nick Alexander just behind him in 11th. Mark Starr is nursing that car back to the pits. Paul Stout has actually come back out. Because again, you know, there's no point for him just to give up, because all it's going to take is 2 more drivers in front of him, 3 more drivers rather, and he'll be qualifying.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and I'm always a big fan of, even if it seems hopeless, just come out, get something from the race, even if you're way behind everybody, just finish.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, look at Jenson Button in Canada in 2011. I think he was last at the rain delay, and he ended up winning the race. When iRacing implements rain, I'm sure we'll see something here as Rob Armstrong's going onto the inside of turn 1 onto Michael Coomber there, but he's thought better of it. But Coomber's taken a very wide exit and has had to take the grass to come back on there, and that has given Rob Armstrong the inside into the S's. Will he be able to keep that in front as we come up to the bus stop? I don't think the draft is so strong that Coomber is going to immediately be able to come back. And we've also got Kershaw right behind Sanford a little further back, so that could be another battle.
He's actually done really well to catch up with him, because normally when you maintain that much exit speed, oh my goodness, I thought there was going to be a big collection there.
Coomber is a very lucky boy there. I think that's not, he had more draft I think than he expected, more top speed, and he was lucky to get that slowed down without collecting Armstrong. If I'm Armstrong, I'm going to be driving with a lot of adrenaline pumping through my body at the moment, because that must have been millimetres from disaster for him. We've actually got a lot of drivers in the pits, so I wonder if we've had an incident, because Slater, Starr and Johnson have all gone into the pit lane, which means our top 10, well, Paul Stout is now back into 10th.
Exactly,
so yeah, exactly what you're
saying.
You don't want to give up. So what's happened, Mark Starr was dealing with damage, and looks like he was sort of struggling round to get to the pits. Oh, that is nasty. So
that bump there is horrid, isn't it?
I think Starr was dealing with damage from the front entry, and I wonder if Johnson and Slater must have had damage from that or something else and decided to pit as well. At the moment, it does mean that Johnson and Slater are outside of the qualification places. Paul Stout, who was, I think, involved in that incident but went straight to the pits, he's currently, I mean, we thought we saw a big gap for 10th in the previous race, but Stout here has got 55 seconds in front of him and 32 seconds behind him. A lot of damage to that car.
Yeah, look at that. That's going to be pulling you back on your top speed there. I mean, you're right. What you said earlier, Watkins is not a massively fast track, but I mean, there's going to be a lot of destabilisation, and you're going to lose a lot of traction in the front wheels for your turning there. I've just seen the damage on the wing as well. Goodness, the wheel's sticking out.
Well, he's got 14 minutes to survive, so that's going to be, what, roughly 7 laps maybe. He's got 33 seconds to the car behind. He can afford to be 4 seconds a lap slower than Mark Johnson and will still finish ahead of him.
I wondered whether he was going to go wide then. You saw him, he just punted that curve there. You just saw the car little tip.
Yeah.
And I wondered whether it was going to spin wide, but he did well to hang on to it.
It'll be interesting to see what Stout's lap time is at the end of his run here, just to see if it's some, because for Johnson, I don't know if he'll know Stout's got the damage, I know some drivers, myself included, when these races are streamed, they have the stream on in the background because it just gives you that bit of extra information. So if you can hear us, Mark Johnson, you wanna be absolutely bombing it now just to see if you can catch up Paul Stout, because that could be a very interesting last few minutes. And Stout's last lap time was a 1:53, so he is about 3 seconds off the pace.
Yeah, there's going to be a bit of fighting going on around.
Kershaw, Schill and Sanford here. Craig Schill in the number 82 at the back of this. I don't know if you can call 3 cars a train. I mean, there's kind of 5 cars in it, but I wouldn't say Coomber at the front or Rendell at the back, or is it, no, Steve Hughes at the back, apologies. They're not at the moment interacting a huge amount with this. Oh, Johnson has crashed and it looks like he's gone to the pits, so maybe he heard me and maybe I've taunted him too much, so let's see what happened here. That's wide. Oh, he's just lost it going wide. That is actually quite a nasty corner. I've lost it in high downforce cars, and that's very kind of him to make sure he. Oh yeah, he's not got any rear wing, so that's not going to help on the downforce front. But that was very good of him to make sure
what little aero they have, he doesn't have.
Yes, and now he's in the pits, and that actually means Tom Slater is currently in 11th, still taking repairs. Mark Johnson actually appears to be. Well, according to the timing screen, it says he's driving, but the camera clearly says he's not. Slater is currently the last non-qualifier. He'll be 2 laps down on Stout as Stout comes around this next lap. So I would say at the moment, even without another incident, these drivers are getting increasingly safe because they are now 2 or 3 laps ahead of the 11th place. So we might well have our final 10 qualifiers already. I hope I don't jinx it for any of them. But they might well not know that if they're not running with all these extra timing screens. For example, we've got this fight here between Sanford and Kershaw. If they take each other out and Slater and Starr go back out, these two, Sanford and Kershaw, might well not know that they just have to take it easy and they're through. They're still got their pride. They'll want to finish as high up as possible. And let's see if they're going to make any moves there, as Kershaw is making sure Sanford is aware that he's there. Sanford does appear to have a bit of damage on the 7-up car there. He's not got any right wing mirror, so that's the side you want to sneak up on him.
Just hanging on by a thread. There you go. You can just see it wobbling along in the wind.
Yeah, we've got quite a few people cheering on our drivers in the chat. So we've got Little White Tiger, get in Sanford. We've got Slim Boy Win, which I assume is Colin Win, saying come on Stouty. And then we've he's saying also drive the wheels off it, Kershaw. So hopefully not literally, although I'm sure if you're Slater in 11th, you will be hoping that's literal.
Tom Slater's still in the pits by the looks of it.
Still in the pits.
Yeah.
So it must either have a lot. I suspect that's a lot of damage. Plus, it would have been the tow. I don't think they made it back to the pits. I think they had to tow for whatever it was that happened to them. But I mean, the amount of damage they must have, I suspect, even coming back out, it's not going to be a fully drivable car. But Paul Stout is actually quicker than Nick Alexander in front of him. Not to the point where he's going to catch up a 54-second gap, but he's obviously not suffering too badly with the damage.
There's always that temptation, Chris, as well, when you've got damage to whether do you go out now? Do you wait a little bit, wait for the optional repairs? Is it going to be drivable? Because if the optional repairs are like 8 minutes, you might as well go out because you've got to do some time. But
unless they're saving you a minute a lap, in which case they really shouldn't be optional. They're not. They're not going to help you that much. Yeah, Paul Stout is currently 3 laps ahead of the guys that are in the pits, so just have to keep it on the track now. Because if he crashed right now, I wasn't asking him to. It would have been amazing if it turned out I did have those powers. But he's still got 3 laps to survive before Tom Slater will get ahead of him. I mean, we saw at the Race of Champions we did at Hockenheim in the Mustangs, where there were some pit shenanigans in one of the heats, where one driver towed and one driver went back, and by the time the towing driver, I believe it was Tom Carroll, by the time he'd come back out, he was actually a lap ahead, because obviously the tow lap is sort of completed for you. So we do see some shenanigans there. I suspect we've got too much of a gap between 10th and 11th to see that today. It would be one of the more remarkable things we've seen in the Porsche Cup, and we've seen Porsche Cup at Snetterton. So we've already probably seen the maddest thing we can in these cars. We've got the GT3s that will be visiting there on Sunday. I believe that will be Tim Cox and James Parfitt will be your commentators for that. So you can join us here at iRacing UK on Twitch. I'm going to give you the URL. I suspect you know it because you'll be watching us. It's twitch.tv/iRacing UK. As we potentially see a fight here into the bus stop between Rendell and who is that? That is Phil. So Craig Shaw in 6th. He's had a much, I'd say all these guys really have had a much quieter consolation heat compared to their initial heats, where a lot of these guys were either unfortunate participants or perhaps there is maybe instigators is harsh, but they were all involved in incidents, I believe. But yeah, so far they're keeping it nice and sensible going through here as we come into the toe.
I don't know. I mean, as you watch these guys come around turn 1, the 90, it does look like these cars are right on the edge. You can see the drivers know how important it is to get around that corner properly and get a good exit. But it just seemed like the backs were just starting to come out and they just hung on to it. So, but Martin Rendell looking like he's challenging Craig Schill around that inside corner. It's giving him a lot of space, and that is a great overtake. Is he going to get enough speed?
Great driving from these two.
Got enough speed because he went a little bit wide and he retakes that position. That was unlucky to not make that stick, but he did push Craig a little bit wide, but that allowed Craig to carry more speed, so therefore he, on that small straight, he was able to maintain that position. That was a good bit of overtaking, and it looks like Martin's going to have another go. And turn 1, is he going to try and brake late? He's going around the inside. Craig is going wide again, same trick, maintain speed. He doesn't make it this time. He's not going to make it stick as they go up the S's, and Martin Rendell takes the position from Craig beautifully. There was an attempt, maybe it unsettled Craig, and there was a second attempt, but Craig is right behind him as they come up into the inner loop, and he's going to try and retake that position, maybe outbrake him as they go into that right-hander, left link. Craig goes a little bit wide, misses his line, loses a bit of time there as Martin comes onto the outer loop with a good exit speed. So there's a nice bit of back and forth there.
Race. We've got Coomber and Sanford here as well. They're getting quite close to each other. We're going to see some moves into the second half of the track here. I suspect that Sanford is currently just a little bit too far behind. But, you know, a podium in a consolation is still a podium, and races are going to race, as Sean was telling us in our ear when we were looking at the previous lap racing. You know, they've still got their pride. They're gonna want to make sure that they get some screen, and that's the other thing as well. We all want to get a bit of screen time on these if we know they're streamed, and you know, if you put on a good overtaking manoeuvre, that's immortalised for all time. So it's certainly worth your time to try it. As we now go on board with Steve Hughes, who is still in 8th. So he's had a much calmer race this time. Oh, you see a bit of curb there for Craig Schill. Doesn't seem to have affected his line out there too badly. As you see, yeah, you really have to lift here. As you see here, and again, the track temperature at 42 degrees, you cannot afford to push these cars too hard. If you compare the throttle inputs, to all very close to the wall for Steve Hughes there. But you know, if you compare this to what we saw, you know, we've been at Watkins Glen in a lot of the different leagues we do. So the Radicals been here. That corner's flat out in the Radicals. It was flat out in the F3s as well. Just shows you just how differently you have to drive these Porsche Cup cars. And that might be why we're not seeing a huge amount of crossover between these the open wheel drivers and the Sunday GT drivers and Porsche Cup drivers.
And fair play to Martin Cooper, he's doing really well because he knows if he maintains this position, podium in the consolation race, that'll chuck him straight into the feature race. So it's not. And they get a point for fastest lap, although Michael is not challenging for that right now. But he will get another bite at the cherry in the feature race. So it's still pretty cool. It's not. His evening is not over, which is great for him, really.
Yep, it's currently Chris Roberts is this race's fastest lap at 150.7. That's a 10th quicker than Rob Armstrong in 2nd. Oh, actually, no, forgive me, it's actually Martin Rendell in 6th with a 50.4. So Martin's got a lot of pace in the tank. I think that early incident, because he obviously started on pole for this, they'll still qualify for the final race, and he will have a lot to prove there if he's showing just how quick he can drive this car at the moment. They're
You're
over
right
a
there,
second
Chris, as well,
slower
from what
than
you were saying with the track temperature as well, because these fastest laps are, I think the fastest lap from the previous one was 49.9, was it? I think so. They're probably half a second slower. So that track temperature really is starting to affect these cars. And
Now, I'm surprised it's not got higher and higher because the track time, it's not quite midday at Watkins Glen. So you would expect the track to have been rising and rising and rising, but it sort of stayed at around the low 40s for the last 15, 20 minutes. That's
here
Mark
comes Mark
Starr
Starr
leaves
rejoining the
pit.
race.
That was 12 minutes of repairs for him. Oh no. Mark Starr will be thinking, "Come on, I've had too much of an adventure tonight. Please don't add that to it." As they nearly managed to crash coming out of the pit lane. But Rob Sanford is still in 8th, so as unfortunate as it is for him, and it will cost him grid positions in the final heat, he will still be qualifying, which I think some of the spins we've seen, some guys have spun once, and that's been their participation done with, even though they've recovered. Rob being in sort of higher up the grid in this race, so far it doesn't seem to have affected him. He'll still be able to get through.
Rob has had a bit of a roller coaster of an evening, though, hasn't he? Because he was challenging in the previous heat and was doing well in this one, and both times there's a little bit of overconfidence maybe into corners, which has knocked him down the order a fraction. But so hopefully he'll still make the feature race. Hopefully.
Oh yeah, I think he definitely will at this point. Perhaps it's because he knows Rob brings quite a good audience with him, so perhaps it's just to ensure that we make sure we talk about him and we show him enough. Just to, if the overtake's not sticking, maybe just deliberately spin it so that we can focus on Rob for a bit. I suspect that's not what happened, but it's fun to pretend. And the race does seem to have settled down. We've got this battle here between Coomber and Kershaw. It's just been bubbling under the whole race. They've not really attempted too much in the way of a silly move. Coomber in 3rd, which is where he started, and Kershaw started right at the back in 14th. So he'll be quite pleased with this. That's been quite a safe, easy foray into the final heat here. And he's actually gone for the move, and he's got him.
Yeah, that
nice
turn 1 outbraking. Yeah, that was beautiful outbraking. And I think Michael Coomber maybe lost a little bit of confidence in that turn. Maybe he's thinking that the car's not responding too well, but he definitely backed off, it seems, a little bit there and let Kershaw through. And he's already pulled out quite a large gap over Coomber. It's nearly a second, 7/10. That's just that one corner. So it shows how important a good exit and that T1 really is.
I think as well, it's where we've got. This is the final lap. It's one of those things, but they probably don't. They're not aware that P11 is 6 laps down. They are probably just making sure that they don't lose out too much time. Because if you defend that really hard and you both crash, for all they know, they think that 11th is right behind them. They could lose out.
It's good, but you're right. It was probably good sense from Michael Coomber there, actually, just to look, just go through. I'll lose one place here, but I'll finish in 4th rather than 3rd, and get through to the feature race.
Yeah, we're seeing here the curse of being a leader in a race where you've not been challenged particularly strongly. This is really the first we've seen of Chris Roberts since the opening lap, and he's just nice and tidy. We've kept it very simple. I mean, for all we know, perhaps he could have been going quicker than the fastest lap that was set by Martin Rendell, but he's not had to. He's got a 7-second gap back to Rob Armstrong as he comes through into the last corner here to take a consolation race victory.
His best lap is 3/10 slower than Martin Rendell.
Yes,
so he's not been resting on his laurels by any stretch.
No, it's still quick, and again, quicker than I suspect either you or myself could manage in this car.
Absolutely quicker than me. I think I'll probably be doing 2-minute laps.
Yes, I think Rob Armstrong's a bit happy that he qualified there as he swerves around and flashes the headlights. Followed by Kershaw. Rendell. Coomber actually lost another position by the looks of it. He's down into 5th, still qualified. Craig Shaw in 6th. And Steve Hughes in 7th, as we then have the long wait for Rob Sanford. Probably relieved more than anything after the last couple of laps he had. And he will be followed by Nick Alexander and then Paul Stout. And that was Mark Starr finishing his 4th lap. Sadly for him, 7 laps down. So the 12 minutes of damage that Mark had to repair was unfortunately just a bit too much for this 20-minute race. But I think it was still the right thing to attempt to get out there, and he's just been very unfortunate where he wasn't able to make his heat, and then just got tied up in an unfortunate crash on lap 2 of this one. So hopefully we'll see him in 2 weeks. So we're still waiting for Stout. Porsche Cup will be back in 2 weeks. Well, we've still got one more race left tonight, but I believe we are at Detroit in 2 weeks. That could be spicy. So I would say get practicing that and get practicing it with other cars on the track, because that it's
Interested,
not an
Chris.
easy one to overtake.
I'd be interested, Chris, if you could, because I think you're in the P Cup Discord channel. If you can get hold of Mark Starr and see what happened in that heat, because it does seem a bit unfortunate for him there.
I can see I can see their chat. I'm not allowed to, because I've not got the special privileges. I'm not allowed to type in their chat.
Aha. Okay. Fair enough. You can just read it.
I could always message him, but I suspect he'll want to forget about today. It's not been the best day of racing for him, and I wouldn't say it's been his fault particularly. As we now have, I believe this is the 5-minute warm-up before the final event, which I think if you're in the consolation race, you're pretty grateful that you don't have to jump straight into the final race. But this will be a chance for all of these drivers to get back on track and just sort of see where everyone else is at, really. I don't think we're going to see hugely representative times here. The final race as well is 10 minutes longer. It is 30 minutes. So especially with these high track temps, we could see some possible sort of last few lap incidents, I reckon. Certainly we'll see some close battling, I reckon. It was unfamiliar territory for a lot of these drivers. I mean, especially if they're saying that they, you know, like for example, James, having not been in the rig since Thursday, he probably won't have done many long runs in this car at this track then. So we could see some trouble with that. We'll find out in 4 minutes. And we'll have a quick look at the championship table just to see where everyone is at the moment. So this is, I believe, after 2 rounds. I don't believe any of the fastest lap points from today will have carried through yet, but we'll see. Gavin Halls has got a very nice 51-point gap to Dan Bathy. There is, I believe, 1 drop round in this championship, and some of the other competitors here have already missed either Snetterton or tonight. So this doesn't necessarily mean that Gavin Halls is home and dry. We've still got 5 rounds left, and I believe, unless I'm mixing this up with the GT3s, I believe the final round is double points for this. And that will be at Nürburgring. Again, I'm testing my memory here, which is maybe... No, it's at Bathurst, I believe. Looking at their calendar. Yep. It looks like it's Bathurst. That will also... There are going to be some very spicy races here. Watkins is probably one of their few chances to rest and relax at a comparatively kind circuit. But yeah, we see you've got Dan Bathy and Chris Bridle are 2nd and 3rd, and then neck and neck, just 6 points separating the 2 of them. James Armstrong and Johnny Elia are neck and neck as well. Well, literally neck and neck on 216, so they're a bit further behind. Rob Exelby is in 6th. I would say still within a lot of these guys are still within a shout of the championship. Michael Hornby as well in 7th on 192. Dan Mould, who's not here tonight, and apologies if you are here, Adam Holloway, but I don't. Oh no, you are here yet. We're actually currently. Well, timing screens are saying you're in 4th, but I don't think anyone's actually set any times yet, except for Nick Alexander in this warm-up. So, you know, we've still got a lot of drivers in contention here. And then if you look further down, Baxter Jones and Blackwell Chambers, they were 2nd and 3rd in round 1, and they won't have picked up any further points because neither of them made round 2. So that's the sort of the trouble that some of these drivers are going to have, in that, you know, Gavin Halls might well think he's home. Well, he probably doesn't think he's home and dry. I wouldn't think that would be quite quite a hubrisistic, if that's a word, point of view to take. But you know, we've got drivers down there in 20th and 21st that are, you know, 2nd and 3rd place from round 1.
Gavin's in danger of setting a tradition of making it 3 for 3. So you know, he could probably be feeling confident because he definitely romped home. He romped home with a long gap, and it is half the season, so there is only 6 races, and if you've won every one of them, then that is going to give you a fine commanding lead. But of course, we're probably seeing too far into the future, and anything can happen. But judging on his quality of racing tonight, he started, drove away. So if he can maintain that line that he seems to know so well, and eke out 10th per corner, then he'll eventually find himself in 1st with no challenges.
Then again, I mean, it's a different point system here, so it might not be entirely comparable. But we did see in F3 Season 1, Matt Laubscher won all of the first 4 races of the 6 we did. You sort of, at that point, you assume he's got the championship tied up. But he elected not to qualify in round 5, I think partially because he's got confidence in his own ability. Why wouldn't you? He's a very quick driver in a very quick field. Got caught up in incidents in round 5, and I believe it was Will Mason who was challenging him. He switched his focus to GT3, so we'll see him next week in the GT3 league. And round 6, it was actually possible if Laubscher had been punted off on lap 1, which it was at Brands Hatch, and I was there, and I'm not the most reliable driver in the world, along with some of our other esteemed F3 brethren.
Brands is a tight track as well for
it's
F3
a nasty
cars,
track. It's very easily done. But he did manage to get the championship done in the end. But you don't want to see the similar thing happen to Gavin Halls here. As we see the way they're lining up for this final race, we'll have Gavin Halls in first. Mark Baxter-Jones will be in second, with Wally and Batty on the second row just behind them. James Armstrong, Jolly Elia in the third row, followed by Chris Bridle, Peter Plasto, Vance Briggs, Adam Holloway. That rounds out the top 10. And I would honestly say most of those drivers have a very good shout of trying to win this race. They've all shown good pace. Michael Horn being 11th as well, Kane Crawford, Stephen Masters, Martin Robinson, Denny Wood, Colin Wynn, Oliver Cowardine, Stuart Brown, Keith Dawson, Michael Rowe, Chris Roberts, Rob Armstrong, Stephen Kershaw, Martin Rendell. A lot of drivers to get through here. This is going to be the most chaotic race we've seen so far. Extra drivers on the road. And then we've got, so where did we even get to there? I think it was Martin Rendell, Michael Coomber, Craig Schill, Steve Hughes, Rob Sanford,
Rob's
Nick Alexander, and
the
Paul
lights
Stout.
are on. Here we go. Green, 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 green. And they're gone, and we're off. And Gavin Halls, did he get a good start? There's a lot of moving around in the back of the grid. Gavin Halls, is he going to get into the first? Yes. And I think Chris Wally has taken a position from Mark Baxter-Jones. That was a little bit of an unfortunate start, but he got the inside into turn 1, and there doesn't seem to be much chaos there. And you see that long bank as they all come up the S's to maintain that speed. Gavin Halls already got a few tenths of a second lead there, and Chris Wally will in second position, and Mark Baxter-Jones will be challenging him. There's maybe 4 cars wide up that big straight before they go into the inner loop. Everyone's braking hard, cold tyres, a little bit easy, maybe a little bit hesitant on the brakes, and there is no chaos there. That is great driving from everybody there. Everyone gave everyone space, and there was a lot of cars going through that at once. I don't think I've ever seen this many cars on this track. So Gavin Halls still in first.
I've never seen 30 Porsche cars get through here without incident. That's a brand new one.
Absolutely. Oh, we were just talking, and there's been an accident there. Keith Dalton has just had an accident. I don't know if we're going to get a replay of that shortly. And there's someone going wide in the toe there, and here we go, right from the start. And that was a heavy start. He really felt, oh my goodness.
Oh dear.
Oh my goodness, we didn't see any.
Well, they recovered very well then, because we didn't think there'd been any incident. And that excellent avoiding skills from the 77 of Chris Roberts there, because that was a lot of wheel spin on the grid.
And Gavin Halls has opened up a 8/10 lead over Chris Wally. Mark Baxter-Jones is only 3/10 behind Chris Wally, so he's still going to be challenging for that second place. But it looks like Gavin Halls is holding true to start first, drive away, unless something horrid. But he seems confident in his own abilities, and to be honest, I'm confident in his ability of handling this car. A tricksy beast it may be, but he's obviously clearly knows it, because he is fast and reliable with it and safe. And here we are with Johnny Elliott in 8th position. He's dropped 2 off the grid. I'm not sure how that happened. We were focusing on Gavin Halls at the time. So Kroonberg has gone to the pits. I don't know what's happened there. Maybe that was a little bit of glancing damage. There doesn't seem to be any other cars in the pits. So that was probably the grid incident actually. And Johnny Elliott looks like he wants challenge position there with Michael Hornby in the...
But they're very close, but they've survived. I think we've got two very interesting sort of mini battles developing here. The top four have managed to gain nearly 2 seconds on Chris Bridle. So if you're in that top four, you at this stage of the race, you're going to really want to work together to try and make sure that gap is maximised. If you're in this second group here behind Chris Bridle, you're going to be desperately trying to get past him because you're going to think, hang on a second, I'm quicker. As he runs wide there, that's the 91 of Dan Bathy, so that's allowed Michael Hornby past. And that has also meant that Chris Bridle's now got a bit of breathing room, so we'll see if he can try and catch up James Armstrong.
And
But
now we're
if
coming
you're
to the end of the.
Armstrong or Baxter Jones, are they going to want to sort of hold off from making a move so long as Halls doesn't get flying away? Because you don't want to be battling and bring all these guys, these very quick guys, in sort of fifth downwards. Don't want to bring them back into contention.
You can see everyone's getting a little more confidence now. You're near the end of the second lap, the tyres are starting to get up to temperature, and like there's a few more aggressive moves being made. And here with Colin Wynn, who's dropped the place from his grid, and he's close behind Stuart Brown, only 2/10 behind. So we'll see what he does as he comes down the start-finish straight. Is he going to draft him? And we're here with Craig Schill, who's gained a place from his grid. And he goes wide there, looking at maybe trying to take a position from Rod Sanford on that T1. He's got the inside line. That is great. Rob Sanford offers him a bit of space. He goes wide. They both maintain speed. But Rob Sanford somehow has taken the inside line on the S's and maybe retaken that position from Schill. And no, it looks like Schill has managed to hold on to that spot. He's made it stick.
We saw a lovely illustration there of just how many different lines you can take on the exit of turn one without losing too much time. As the 5 drivers behind all took a different line and all have come out in the same position at the same speed. It just sort of shows you how tricky that turn one is, because how are you supposed to know where your braking point is if there's about 70 different ways you can take that corner?
I think that there's a bit of a queue forming behind Johnny Elliott now, but I think that's right though, because it's also maybe illustrative of different people's driving styles and how they maybe prefer to take the corner. Some people prefer to go deep and wide, others maybe brake a little earlier so they can get an earlier apex. So it's all down to how you feel and how you set up the car as well, and how you feel you can handle this push. So, a little bit of a squeak wide there from Adam Holloway, in lost maybe 3 positions, and the car in front of him nearly lost it again, but he's settled back into the line now. But he's lost several places.
Peter Musto as well, he's dropped all the way down. But we also saw there, perhaps it's a connection issue because he's just jumped back up again. But we're seeing Michael Hornby very racy with Chris Bridle. They're just 2/10 between them, and I think Michael Hornby must think he's got the pace to catch up with these guys, so he's not got much patience at the moment. He's going to desperately want to get past Chris Bridle here as they come up the S's. This is the, oh no, that's the, I think we're on a replay here of the two of them. It's not currently live. There we go, so they're coming up through the S's. And there's now a 10 between them, although, there we go. Is Hornby going to make a move? He's certainly pulled out onto the inside, but he's not got the straight line speed, so he's not done it just yet. But every lap that passes, that's going to just increase that gap to that top 4. And Hornby, as we saw, set the fastest lap in the previous heat. He's going to know he's got the pace to try and catch up with them. Those top 4 so far behaving. They've kept their gaps. They've not gone for anything too silly because they know there is still 24 minutes left of this race. Plenty of time to make it. Oh, and there he goes.
Oh my goodness, the late break and maybe on the power too fast. Oh, that is so destroying for Chris Bridle, because he's just going to have to wait patiently for everyone to pass so he can rejoin safely. Michael Hornby did a good job to avoid him, lost a couple of places, and he just skims the Armco, avoids all the traffic, and in last place. That is a real shame for Chris Bridle. I'm not quite sure what happened there. Maybe he got on the power a little bit too fast. Michael Hornby lost a few positions because he managed to avoid that, but still, losing 4 positions, 5 positions is better than losing 20 odd. So, but he was fast and he was 2/10 behind Chris Bridle there. I wonder if Michael unsettled Chris a little bit into that, and Chris was a little bit anxious with the throttle, and maybe that's why the back end kind of tried to swap around.
No, he didn't do, and Hornby must be so frustrated right now because nothing he can do. He did very well to not go into him there, and he did the right thing, and you sometimes you think, well, if I had just ploughed through him, I'd probably still be in fifth, and well, maybe the damage he'd have from doing it would compromise it. But yeah, he's just taken just lost the rear there, probably just slightly too much throttle, or just stepped on the throttle just a bit too much, and he's just turned around. And Hornby, unfortunately, was just so close behind that he couldn't do anything about it. As a Wally defends from Baxter Jones. Baxter Jones is the closest of these four to the car in front, and
Baxter Jones
he
is
will want
4 tenths
to try
behind
and
Chris. He's looking to retake his position that he lost on the grid.
He'll want to get back up to second because he'll know he's got the pace to challenge Halls. Not that Wally doesn't, because again, there's only half a tenth. But this is the trouble. Do you spend ages fighting and lose out on time? As we see a very close bunch knit of cars. We've got 4 cars here going 2 wide side by side as they come down into, I believe this is the chute, and then we'll be into the toe next.
That's right. Yeah. Oh my goodness. There's a big crash.
And that's
that was a big crash. And there's massive collection there. Oh, that's a real shame.
That was the 9 of Martin Robinson that perhaps should have stayed still. It's very unfortunate. Yeah, that's the number 9 there. That's unfortunately, that chain reaction has just taken the 77 out there, which is Chris Roberts, who was running so well. He'd started in 21st, he climbed up, and that's sort of his race done. Very sad to see. We've still got plenty of battles, so here, plenty of cars together. I think it's inevitable when you've got so many cars together, you will occasionally get incidents, and you just have to hope that the drivers can sort of see through the adrenaline and just remember to hold their brake while everyone comes through. We saw it with the previous incident, which was very good there, but with Chris Bridle, but unfortunately that time we didn't see the same thing. And that's all it is, it just takes one incident.
To be fair to car number 9 though, I mean, like, he probably shouldn't have moved, but even if he hadn't moved, I still think that would have happened because he would have caught the front rather than the back of it, because he was still poking out into the track. And there we go. Chris Wally has maybe lost second position as Baxter Jones takes the better line through the inner loop. And I think Chris Wally maybe lost a little bit of speed on the S's there, but he's still right behind him. So is the outer loop going to claim another victim as they run down to the chute? Is there going to be some anxious accelerator pedals here? Hard braking. Baxter Smith brakes twice there. That's probably not ideal, and has allowed Chris Wally to catch up, because you really only need to brake once and then accelerate. And Armstrong is now challenging Chris Wally, because it looks like Chris is being held up by Mark, because he came out of the outer loop, no apologies, out of the chute badly, so he was allowed to catch. But so now James Armstrong is hot on the heels of Chris Wally, and you can still see in the front there, Gavin Hall's still looking at a massive lead. But so everyone is still in contention. These 4 cars are right close together, and that big left, there's almost a hairpin before you approach the final corner for the before you come to the start-finish straight, and that T1, which is so important for the speed. We've got a replay coming here now for Craig Schill flashing his lights, being a little bit impatient. Goodness me! Yeah. Oh, he held that well. That was unlucky there.
The magic headlights flash worked, sadly.
Yeah.
That's Craig Schill's race over as well.
Can he rejoin? I don't know.
But Chris Wally on that lap there, he was running. He was obviously pushing as hard as he could. You saw he took a bit of grass on the exit of the heel, and lots of micro corrections, as you pointed out as well, going through the chute. He tapped on the brake in extra time just to make us. And James has got a very good run here. He's going to go on the outside. Is he going to swing back and take the inside like how Baxter Jones did on the previous lap? Wally's not defending too hard. There is a lot of draft here. And he's got the straight line speed. And James is just sort of just waiting here, because I think he's probably sat behind a lap now. He knows that Wally is really struggling here. Perhaps he's running a lower downforce setup, so he's really struggling through these corners, but it just means he can defend as Armstrong goes on the outside of the chute here. It's not really a way you're going to get around someone unless you're side by side, but he has, by looks, got a better exit. Wally's beginning to hold him up. I think that's why Baxter Jones went for the move, because he probably just felt he was beginning to hold him up. And actually Baxter Jones has caught up with Halls by nearly half a second in the last lap, so we will have a fight on for the lead here if all carries on like this.
Goodness me, James Armstrong a little bit wide and bounced off the Armco. That's going to be a little bit of damage. He's allowed Chris Wally to pull out a little bit ahead. I wonder if Chris Wally's maybe been overdriving it a little bit, and that's maybe why he lost a bit of speed. But James is sadly going to be a lot slower now.
Yeah, he's damaged his steering. He's definitely out of the running for the top here. Is that car drivable for the rest of the race? I suspect not, but he's not going to want to take the pit unless he absolutely has to, because 5-second gap to Dan Bathy. If he thinks he can drive that car, he could possibly defend it, but it does look a bit crabby, and he looks like he's he's coming. Oh no, that looked like the pit entry line he was taking there. Perhaps he was doing it to psych us all out.
I wonder whether he'll do another lap to see if it's drivable or not, and then maybe risk the pits for some points rather than just. Because you know what it's like if you think, oh, I can make this, I'll make it round, and then all of a sudden your braking points change and you can't get that steering input. And there we go. Was that Vance Briggs? A little bit. That was Plasto who spun a little bit wide there and lost 2 places. Allowed Michael Hornby and Johnny Elliott to squeak through, and we're watching those two up the S's now. Michael Hornby is close behind.
Yeah, I thought Briggs had lost quite a lot of speed there because of that incident, but Hornby wasn't able to capitalise on it the way that Elia and Bathy did. Perhaps he was just a bit too far behind. And yeah, we're seeing incidents all throughout the pack at the moment, but Baxter Jones is keeping Halls nice and honest. Last lap he was a 10th quicker than Halls. And it looks like Chris Briddle's just had a crash, and perhaps we can go and see what happened there. And that's on the main straight. Is he another one that's lost it into turn 1? Yeah, so he's already. Oh, yeah, it's either a controller thing or just a correction that went wrong coming through turn 1, and he just had to bail. But that is obviously not great for him. He's now running down in 22nd. I'm sure that's not how he saw his feature race going. Let's have a look at some of our highest climbers. We've got Martin Rendell in 15th, who started 24th, is doing quite well. Adam Holloway, who we're looking at the moment, he started in 10th and is down to 18th. So mixed fortunes here in the middle of the pack, but they're all still so close together. Briddle might have some damage or some issues because it looks like has jumped to the pit lane. So perhaps it is a controller issue, although that looks like he's just lost it and this time he's got damage, and I think that's perhaps the adrenaline pumping from earlier. I've certainly been there before. I'm sure, Ian, you have as well. That adrenaline, you make one mistake and that leads into 2 or 3 mistakes. Absolutely. Let alone the fact that tyres are probably a bit heated up from that spin.
Absolutely. And here we are back with Vance Briggs coming up the S's on the next lap. And you've got Michael Hornby, who's not quite as close this lap as well. He's dropped back a little bit, but here we are coming up to the inner loop. And we're hitting the hard braking point, going across that curb, taking as straight a line as possible. Michael goes a little bit wide, and there's a bit of an accident in front. I missed the number as we went past it. That was Plasto. It looked like he maybe outbraked himself as he came into the outer loop. James Armstrong, apologies. James Armstrong maybe outbraked himself as he came into the outer loop. And here we see a replay of James. He bounced off the curb, and I think that probably unsettled it enough for him to hit that Armco. And that car there's a lot of scrapes and damage on that car. I wonder how drivable it will be, but he's lost a few places and he's been offered a tow and he's taken it. And we're back with Michael Hornby, who's gained 4 positions, and he's still hot on the trail of Vance. So we're coming into, I think that's the heel, I believe, as we come up to that hard left. And Michael Hornby's gained a little bit of time on Vance. He's now right behind him. Is he going to be looking for a good exit from the last turn on that start-finish straight? Look to draft him into that turn 1. And it's been interesting. I haven't been watching Hornby's line on that turn 1. So will he go wide to maintain speed, or will he try and go inside? There we go. He's drafting. Is he having to think about it? He's probably a little bit far back now, actually. He maybe didn't get the exit out of that last corner before. And he's going a little bit wide, and Vance really, no, Vance actually goes a little bit too wide, and that was clearly an error, and Hornby takes advantage of that, bounces off the curb a little bit as he goes up the S's. And here we are with Gavin Halls coming through the inner loop, still fairly composed, although Mark Baxter Jones appears to have caught up on him. He's only half a second behind him, and there's a crash, I'm being told, in the back of the screen. We might have a replay shortly of that, but right now we're looking at Gavin Halls.
24. He's had a bit of an adventurous race. But Looking at the Twitch comments, we've got Wee Sharky referencing the initial James Armstrong crash in the tow. Armstrong doing Armstrong things. As we see in the bus stop with Keith Dalton here, what's he done? He's made the move, or he's had the move made on him, and then he's just lost it on
Yeah,
exit.
I think he was maybe trying a little bit hard to maintain speed for that outer loop, so he could maybe come out of it well and retake that position. But he's definitely got a yeah. He's looking really unhappy there. I think he needs a tow.
Keith probably needs to go to the pits with that. James has actually hopped onto the Twitch comments and said, "I swear Wally has something on the back of his car. Every time I'm close, I lose all rear grip. Was going straight and got wheel spin." It's got one of the James Bond power-ups in the back of his car there, obviously.
And Mark is ever so slightly closer. I mean, to be fair, actually, to Mark, this is a good race. Gavin Hawes is not having it all his own way this race, and he's gained the 10th there. So we'll see what happens as we come out of this corner, as we go up the S's. Who's going to get the better exit? So Mark is he's 3.5 tenths behind now, and he's actually closing, so he got a better exit. He's 3 tenths behind. So we're coming into the inner loop with Mark Baxter-Jones, now only a 10th. Behind him. And he
just
brakes
letting him know he's
very
there.
late. They bounce off the curb, and here we go. We're coming out of the exit. Exactly. This is the first bit of pressure that Gavin's had in 3 races, and all credit to Mark for actually doing it. And he's had it all his own way up till now, but now will he be able to take it? I mean, oh my goodness, Plasto's gone off, Briggs has spun off as well.
I think those two are battling into the bus stop, and perhaps they've collected each other. We might be able to go back and have a look at that. But yeah, this is heating up very nicely. It's been a bit of a slow burner, this feature, but the last 10 minutes, we've got all 3 podium positions fighting for the win here. As we go back and see Plasto and Briggs as they approach into the bus stop with the 33 on the inside of Briggs, and they've just two cars don't go into one. Plasto's come out of it a bit better than Briggs there. I think it's 2 drivers. Oh yeah, that's a bit more damage there. That's 2 drivers who have been, they're very quick. They've been driving well. They've been giving each other the space. And I think they're just trying to drive just that little bit too close to each other. It's unfortunate, but it's very easily done into that corner, and it is the best overtaking opportunity, so you can't blame the guys for trying. I think they both feel frustrated that it's happened, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily anyone's fault from that camera angle we've seen. Obviously, we've not seen it from the driver's eye, so perhaps it's different. And actually, Wally there was half a tenth quicker on that last lap than the 2 guys in front of him. So it really is a 3-way fight.
Gavin has managed to open a half a second gap from that 10th that Mark Baxter-Jones was just behind him. So, and Chris Wally is now 4 tenths behind, but they're still very close, and it's still everything in it.
Yeah, we're going to see
coming
a move
into
here.
in a loop.
Certainly, Pauls is still sort of defending it a bit. Just to say, look, I'm not just going to let you past, because he knows that with Wally behind, he can afford to back them up a little bit. They've got a 10-second gap back to Bathy, so these guys can defend quite robustly. There's only 9 minutes left. That will translate to about 5 laps from here, approximately, including the one they're on. And this is just a straight shootout between these 3 for the win now. But as we've said in the heat, you don't want to absolutely send it and destroy your own race, even if it does mean for a small chance of glory. You want to take that opportunity when it's more obvious. So, for example, here with Wally, is he going to dip his nose in front? Nope, he's just going to tuck in behind Baxter-Jones there. So he doesn't want to cost Baxter-Jones too much time to Halls, because Wally will know the win is still on for him here. But if he fights too much with just Baxter-Jones, then it will slip away very quickly as we switch to Johnny Elia and Michael Hornby. So Hornby's got past it at some point. Hornby's fastest lap pace is still as quick as the leaders, so he will probably feel like, had he qualified better and done okay in the heat races, he'd be up in the top 4 fighting for the win as well. I suppose he was the unlucky one that got caught in that incident round the chute earlier, so he's probably driving angry at this point, I reckon.
It's never a good chance. It's never a good thing to do, is it? Driving angry. You need to basically give yourself a breather so you can calm down, take a breath, concentrate, because driving angry will eventually force an error, and that will, you maybe take your line a little bit wrong, And it looks like Chris Wally has fallen back a little bit from Mark Baxter-Jones. And Mark Baxter-Jones, is he challenging for the lead? No, he was really close. Did Hall take his foot off the
These three
accelerator?
are really, really closed up. Something must have happened to Halls there because he was quite slow on the approach to the bus stop. And it seems to have actually backed Baxter Jones up into Wally as well. So is that tactics? I mean, I feel a bit like I'm a Nico Rosberg YouTube impersonator by doing this, but is he trying to back Baxter Jones up just to sort of try and get those two to battle again? I suspect not, because these kind of advanced devious tactics are not exactly possible when you're concentrating on just driving as fast as possible. I think you need to have a particularly twisted mind as well, which apparently I have. Seem to have some big issues further back in the track. We've had Holloway, Sanford and Kirschford have all gone off track. They were all running together, so perhaps that's been an incident. And of course it's into the bus stop. When is it not into the bus stop?
Oh, that was net code. And then Sanford maybe braked too hard and turned too hard. Yeah.
Sanford has done what I'm sure we've all done at some point and panicked at the incident in front and just put the brake pedal down and
Stamped
just gone.
a little bit too hard, and then that's it. It's all gone. Yeah, that's a shame. That looked clearly net code.
Yeah, Sean and I are saying it would have been better if we'd just gone straight on. It would have been quicker as well, because especially with the pace the top guys are doing, you can get rid of the slowdown you'd get pretty quickly, I'd say. But yeah, these three are still close together. We've still got just a second between them, and we're hearing that Rob Armstrong has now crashed as well. He's dropping down the order. He was running just outside the top 10, and he's now down to about 20th. Let's see if Baxter Jones, he's got a good run on Halls here. He's going to take the outside line. We've not seen any overtakes on the outside yet. He's outside, but Halls is defending. And what's Wally going to do now?
And he's lost a lot of speed there. Mark Baxter-Jones lost a lot of speed there in order to try and make that corner. And is Wally going to try and take him in the chute?
That is honestly one of the best defensive manoeuvres I've ever seen, because it was just perfectly, placed his car perfectly, gave Baxter Jones all the space he needed, but also made sure that Baxter Jones had to compromise his exit from the bus stop, which has brought Wally back into contention. But Baxter Jones definitely seems to be the fastest of these three as we go back and look at a replay of Rob Armstrong's crash. Thankfully it looks like it was just him on himself, he hasn't killed anyone, and it's coming round the hill and he's just lost it on entry. I don't think he even took any curve. So that might just be slightly too much entry speed. Maybe he was trying to trail bake a bit more, got a little bit greedy on it. I think sometimes when you are, you're pushing in clean space and you're maybe right at the limit of what you can do with the car. And it looks like Wally's had an incident, because he is 4.5 seconds back from these two now. It's now a two-horse race. So what happened to Wally there? Because it doesn't look like he went off track. He may have just spun it and stayed on track, so he's probably lost it again perhaps on the exit of the same corner, or maybe just before. As we don't seem to have an event listed on our timing screens for it, so he's obviously not gone off the screen or touched anyone. But these cars are so easy to lose that he might well have just spun it and stayed on track, and it's not been picked up by our broadcasting software. Sean's having to work in overtime for these events because there's so many cars on track, so I mean, a shout out to him as well for the work he does behind the scenes and all these graphics as well, as we look at Gavin Halls, who for the first lap in a while seems to have enough of a space that he doesn't need to defend into the bus stop. I'm sure he's quite grateful for that. 3.5 minutes just over left on the clock. That will be 2 or perhaps 3 laps depending on when they next come across the line. So he's got a little bit more defending to do to make it 3 wins out of 3. Baxter Jones is certainly making him earn this win. And they are the closest fight in the field, although it does also look like Crawford, Wynn and Carwadine are shaping up for a bit of a fight. But as they approach into the bus stop here, it's Wynn defending from Carwadine. But I think these three are just sort of at the moment, they seem to be very evenly matched on pace. Maybe taking slightly different lines in here. Actually, Wynn is really right up to the back of Crawford there. And, they've still got 2 or 3 laps. You don't want to have an incident here because a top 10 finish would be very good in terms of points scored. Sanford's having a look on the inside of Kershaw there, but not able to do it. But he's looking very racy behind him there, much quicker as we come round the outer loop as well and into the chute. But yeah, we've still got a few battles going on here. see if anyone can make a move as we come up through here. And now we're going to look at Elia, and I believe that is Michael Hornby just behind him. Hornby, as we've said before, desperately trying to make up some more of those places. He's got a quicker lap. Oh, actually, Elias managed to get past Hornby on lap 14. So as much as Hornby has got that quick one-lap pace, Elias still here, as that is the number 82 of Craig Shield just giving way. Very kind of him to do that. It's good to see that sensible driving, because he's 2 laps down, not through any fault of his own, really, I don't believe. Well, I don't know, it depends how much you count headline. And yeah, Halls is defending again, and he's got plenty of space. He's actually able to go back onto the racing line to an extent, which means his exit from the bus stop isn't going to be compromised too badly. And
well, it looks like Mark got a good exit there, actually, because he's not too far behind him. He looks like he's closed up as he's come around the outer loop as they come into the chute, and they're all down to the braking zone here. So there we go. And there's a very late brake there from Mark Baxter Jones, and he got very, very close to Gavin Halls. He's clearly keen to get past and try and outbrake him and maybe carry a little bit more speed through that corner, but it's a dangerous corner because the camber's a bit strange sometimes and it can put you off. But Gavin Halls has regained 4/10 as they come down to the toe. And my fault, no, it's not the toe, I don't think it is the heel, sorry. And there might be one more lap left in this, so we've got a minute left, and Gavin's going to cross the line, and probably Kershaw's just gone off track and dropped 2 places, and 3 places. And Sanford has gone off, and Sanford's gone into the pits by the looks of it. And so here we go with Gavin Halls coming round the final corner into the start-finish flag. White flag is out. And how far we got? So Mark Baxter Jones is 5.5 tenths behind him. How's this turn 1 going to go? So he's like 5.5, slightly less than 5.5. He's got a slightly better exit, but I don't think there's going to be any challenges up the S's for this. It's closing slowly. He's now
a couple of kilometres an hour quicker.
Behind.
Coming up the straight.
Now,
are we going to see a very aggressive move here? No, that would be extremely aggressive if we see it. No.
He brakes a lot later as well and really catches up a little. He's only 2 tenths behind him now, so who's going to get the better exit around the outer loop? And it looks like Mark Baxter Jones has got a better exit. What's happened with Gavin Halls? He's very, very tentative on the accelerator there. Goodness me, as they come down the chute now, but he looks like he's opened out 500ths on Mark Baxter Jones as they head down towards the toe. And Mark has a quick look, looking to go a little bit wide, maintain a little bit extra speed. He's chosen a different apex. He's now...
The next corner is the best overtaking opportunity he'll get, I reckon, before the checkered flag. Halls is defending because he knows this.
1/10. Less than 1/10. My goodness me, this is really going down to the wire. He's now alongside him. Oh, he lost a little bit of time there. That's a shame. I think that was probably the last chance he was going to have there. And Gavin Halls is going to take the win unless...
Oh, a little bit of oversteer coming out turn 9.
Trying a little bit hard there. Goodness. Here we go, 2 corners. Penultimate corner. And we're coming into the final corner now. Gavin surely can't mess this up right now. There we go. He's on the power. Back into the start-finish straight, and the checker flag is out. He's flashing, and that is a great race from those 2. Superb finishing. And Chris Wally luckily finishes third, a distant third, but still third. He managed to hold on to it after that spin that put him out of contention for first and second.
Yeah, that was a masterclass in defensive driving from Halls there. He'll be. If I were him, I'd be most pleased with that win of the 3 he's had so far. Baxter Jones pushed him all the way, and I think with the draft seemed to have more pace. As Crawford Wynne and Carwadine seem to have come in the order they've been in the last few laps, they were all quite close too. Isn't Kershaw? We're just watching it. Oh, that's into the bus stop, and that's with Sanford as well. That was perhaps the overly aggressive move we didn't want to see from the leaders. And luckily didn't collect the number 26. That was nearly the perfect recovery. And they didn't manage to collect there. They've gone to the pits. And it looks like we've just got the last few drivers coming around. I believe Paul Stout, funnily enough again, is going to be the last driver through again. Paul Stout finishing 20th, so he'll be quite pleased with that after the shenanigans of the consolation heat. That wasn't quite the chaos of Snetterton, but we still had a very good race there. We saw some very good racing from the top guys. So yeah, we see Paul Stout just coming through here at the end. 20th place, I think, quite a good recovery for him, considering how the evening started for him. And we might be able to get the results splash screen up in a few minutes, hopefully. Ian, how did you find that race? Yeah, there we go. That's Hall's 150 points. Yes, Ian, how did you find that race?
Well, good. I mean, clearly there was a fair amount of action in the lower field, but this was the first time this evening we'd seen Gavin Halls actually challenged for his leadership, and Mark Baxter-Jones did a great race, and Chris Wally was also challenging superbly. And those two, I don't know, it was kind of weird. They were almost like a caterpillar, so there was a concertina effect as they were getting closer and further apart and closer and further apart. So it could have actually gone anywhere, but sadly Chris Wally had a bit of a problem that we didn't really see, and it was between Mark Baxter-Jones and Gavin Halls, and they did actually take it down. I think it was down right to the fourth corner and the third corner on the last lap. That was really excellent racing, and sadly he got a bit of a bad exit from, I think, the last but three corners, and which is what put him out of contention. But he's still got to take second, and I mean Gavin Halls has got to be chuffed with that. You're right, and that was great racing. He's not only fast, but he's got good racecraft. So that's kind of what we were talking about earlier. Can he stay in front and just drive away, or can he actually defend his position? And yes, emphatic yes.
Just run through all the results here. So yeah, Gavin Halls took the win with Baxter-Jones in second and Wally rounding out the podium, as we've just discussed. Dan Batty finished fourth. Johnny Elia managed to hold off Michael Hornby in the end for fifth, and Hornby finished sixth, with Denny Wood in seventh, Stephen Masters eighth, Kane Crawford ninth in that battle with Colin Wynne and Oliver Carwadine just behind them in 10th and 11th. Vance Briggs, who was running up in the top 10 very well for a while, but obviously had that spin and has finished 12th, with Martin Rendell just behind in 13th, followed by Steve Hughes, Peter Plastow, Adam Holloway, Rob Armstrong, Chris Roberts, Stephen Kershaw and Paul Stout were the ones that finished on the lead lap. And then Sanford, Alexander, Rowe, Schill, Armstrong, Dalton, Brown, Bridle, Robinson and Coomber all finished a few laps down. We'll have a look at the final championship standards. So this is including the fastest lap points. So look at Gavin Halls there. He's now got an 82-point lead, if my mental maths is correct, over Dan Bathy. Johnny Elia is 40 points further back in third. Don't forget, there is one drop week in the Porsche Cup. So, for example, Baxter-Jones down in eighth. He's only done 2 rounds, so he is not out of contention, and Halls is not home clear yet either. Michael Hornby is in fourth. Bridle is in fifth. James Armstrong is somehow still in sixth, considering I feel like every time I've watched, he seems to be getting involved in incidents while trying to chase for positions higher, because I think his overall pace has not reflected his finishing positions since I've been commentating on this. And then we've got Adam Holloway 7th, Baxter-Jones 8th, as we've said, Colin Wynne 9th, and Denny Wood rounding out the top 10. Special mention as well to Chris Wally, who has risen 15 places to go up to P13 in the championship.
Yeah, that really is excellent racing. That's quality. But I was looking at the points awarded for the different positions. So P1 gets 150 and P2 gets 135. So you're right. Gavin Halls cannot rest and sit back. He has to keep trying. I mean, if he continues to do as he's done in the last 3 events, then he'll probably romp home safely. But he can't relax. With only 15 points, even if he comes P2, that lead might be reduced. So there you go. It'll just bite away at his points lead. So.
Exactly. And then, so I think let's round up for the evening. Let's sort of look ahead to next week and the next things we've got coming on. So next week is going to be the GT3 League. What I should have done is check where they actually are at, because it's slipped my mind, and I don't think I'm in their league. So they are at Snetterton. So we've not seen any chaotic racing there recently, have we? I'm sure we'll see some more soon. And then the Porsche Cup will be back in 2 weeks, and they'll be at Detroit. So that's going to be a spicy race. Also, we've got a few midweek leagues going on. We're looking to hopefully get them broadcast. There's Formula V on Tuesday, which I don't believe will be. The Radical League is weekly and will be on Thursday. And then I'm hoping that the Tuesday after the GT3s, we're looking at getting potentially the F3 Round 2 that will hopefully be broadcast, and that one will be taking place. That's slipped my mind as well, and I've just closed down the calendar. I should know because I'm commentating on that one, I imagine. So that will be a week Tuesday, so that's not just yet. Also, thanks, a shout out to TrackCams22 for providing the cameras tonight. Thank you to Sean Canley Swash for providing the broadcasting in the background. Don't forget to follow, and if you fancy giving us your Twitch subscription, that would also be very gratefully received, but no pressure. Thank you also to Ian for joining me in the commentary booth tonight. I've had a good time. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I've had a lovely time, and it's been really good fun. Thank you very much, Chris, and thank you to all.
Good night. Merry Christmas.